All right, people. Whew. إن الحمد لله وكفاه والصلاة والسلام على رسوله المصطفى وعلى عباده الذين ارتضى ومن بهداهم اهتدى وبآثار أهل المدينة اقتفى وبعد فالسلام الله على القوم. أهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا. Juanying Leute, bienvenidos a todos. Bakhair Ragle, Khushamadid, and as always, people. Swagatam, Swagatam. Oof. Hi, people. हमेशा देर कर देता हूँ मैं. Oh, first of all, let me just do an audio check. Is the sound coming through pretty good? Is it good? Yeah, is it coming through? Can you guys all let me check let me check mi gente on Facebook as well. Frowdy, you're doing it. Ayub, alright. Riz, clear, ahlan wa sahlan, sounds banging. Alright, that's what I'm talking about. People. You know, I got a little late. It was I was looking for the seventh ant, you see. You know what it is, people? You guys are haters. This don't hate here. Look, you can see some. Can you hear that? There goes the next one. 5, 6. Right. There you go. And then the seventh, Maru Saliko. Maru, kill. Don't worry, Ant. You're dying for a good cause. This is a good cause, yeah. There's gonna be an increase in the ummah. People, I'm gonna Can you see my ants in there? This has been really hard, you know. I've had to go to 2 different graveyards, and people, you think things come easy in this dunya? Oh damn! I drank it. Oh no! I'm supposed to do something else. Oh tova. I don't know what's gonna happen to my intestines now. So people, I'm gonna sell that as part of Mufti merch. People are gonna have an opportunity to help this ummah. Right, so what is going on with you amazing people? We've got quite a few things to cover, as always. And all right. Yep, I'm gonna have to hook you guys up with that ant juice. It doesn't come easy, you know. There's hard work that goes in. It's back-breaking stuff, that is. You know, it's breakthrough technology, quantum. This is quantum stuff. Right, so what is going on, man? What is going on, people? So, let's begin by shall I share a poem? A poem from previous. Here's a poem, a good one, people. Whilst you guys are all firing up over there.
लोग टूट जाते हैं
यार. People break down.
एक घर बनाने में.
घर बनाने में.
सुनिएगा.
What do you think?
कि लोग टूट जाते हैं एक घर बनाने में. तुम तरस नहीं खाते बस्तियां
जलाने में. Do you guys have any
और हर धड़कते पत्थर को लोग दिल समझते हैं. हर धड़कते पत्थर को लोग दिल समझते हैं. उम्रें बीत जाती हैं दिल को दिल बनाने में.
उम्रें बीत जाती हैं दिल को दिल बनाने में. That was Bashir Badr Sahib. Allah. So what is going on, man? What is going on? What is the best way to ask Mufti a question? You just did, Wajah Hussein. Right. Fahad, you're doing it. Mufti, if you use small ants instead of big ones, does it shrink? I can't risk it, yar. I can't. This one. Big trouble in Little China. No, 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 no. This one wrong. Right number, wrong door, number next door. This one, no, 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 no. So, right, what is going on? What is going on? Somebody's got to go. Salams, Tobiya, Tobiya, you're doing it, you're doing it. Right. AA says, make my week. Look at this. Give them a shout out. Chalo yaar, Gio yaar, AA. Is that for Alcoholics Anonymous? Yeah, so what is going on? Abu Safura, ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan. Yep, we will be covering a bit of course, our beloved Sitaji or Gitaji. We have to, because this one, it's important. It's muy importante.
Why I'm saying this?
I can't get over that. Who the hell speaks like that? But honestly,
Why I'm saying this?
why are you saying this, man? Why are you saying this? Talk, man. Why I'm here, man? Why I'm here? And then, oh, I've been haunted all week by this. In my nightmares, people. In my nightmares. So, yes, we will cover our beloveds. Halim, big toe, I'm big toe. We'll cover a bit of that later on. And Usman, why I'm saying this is visa services. So, got to help them out. So we'll deal with some of this stuff. We'll talk also a bit about the wise man of this ummah, who they're bending over backwards to defend. The great wise man, who all the wisdom from the seven heavens came down onto, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Sahib. So you're going to see some toba. I mean, there's going to be some I have to say, there's going to be a part which is a bit serious, very disturbing stuff. But then there's some wisdom. Oof. Hikmah munfarida. Oof. Some unique wisdom memoirs being shared by none other than the all-wise himself. No, not Allah. Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi. And also, what is interesting, I would like to discuss as well, is you see, it's interesting. There's all this talk going on about, look, because people are kind of reacting to what I'm saying, and Mufti this, and Mufti's a kafir, and Mufti's a zindiq, and Mufti's a murtad, and Mufti's. Since people are very interested, what is much more important is the honor of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that's something I'd like to talk about, because it's interesting how Mulvi Abdul Halim, Mulvi Usman, the Chacha Sheikh Abdul Rahim Limbada, and all the who's giving them the blessing about all of this, how they have just been, I mean, just without a care, without any interest, so willfully been dishonoring the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and insulting him, and throwing his honor under the bus, just to save the honor of the senior Deoband founders. And that's such a tragedy, wallahi. And I'll speak a bit about that later on as we get into it. This whole topic of Gustakh Rasul, which is such a big thing from where they come, that for almost 100 years, this is why the other residents of the Indo-Pak had been calling them people who dishonor the messenger, Gustakh Rasul, people who don't care about blaspheming against the Prophet or just insulting him, so long as it's to justify. I mean, they don't just do it, but they'll do it to justify their cause. And usually this comes across as sectarian, but you'll see it firsthand today, when we discuss this. But yeah, so there are some of those topics. But other than that, people, what else is going? I did want to take some of your questions as well, because I did feel that, look, for 1 2 shows, we've been going on some interesting stuff, but there's been a lot of presentations, and I thought, you know what, this week I'd mentioned anyway, this week I was preoccupied. Karna padta hai yaar. You have to live life as well. These people don't understand. So, and then my one eye, I accidentally spilt some ant juice in it. I don't know what I did to it. I probably spilled some ant juice in it. So it was, yeah, so it's kind of healing now anyway. So yeah, so this is what's been going on. What about you people, man? People, what is going on? I know you all need the ant juice. It's these ants, honestly. It's ants in the pants. Ay, ay, Maulana Saab, Hakim al Ummah, and ay, Malvi, ay, Malvio. These Halim Big Toe, Usman Visa, you're doing it, man. That's man, you guys are doing it. You're doing it. So, speak of Ramadan this year, Mufti. Ramadan not too far away. I don't know. Well, you see, normally during Ramadan, I don't really do my Monday nights. I don't know, it may just stay that way. I do stream other things, so sometimes I stream that Arabic learning courses and things like this. But let's see. Que sera, sera. Mufti, do you get drained from this stuff? I'm feeling so drained. Yeah. It is. It's draining. I'll be honest with you guys. It's some of these topics are very dark, and I don't like going mentally to a dark place. Okay, I'm not that. I'm somebody. I'm more. Very. I'm sure you guys are familiar with my kind of mindset and the things I like, and I'm more into very light-hearted stuff and keeping things humorous, but some of this stuff is it's very dark, and I don't like it. But it's shocking how people defend it and justify it, and we'll speak a little bit about that. But yeah, I suppose it can have its draining effect. But it is what it is. Yeah. So, Rosalina G, how are you doing? How are you doing? How's life? Life is good, lillahi alhamd. Life is good. How can we organize a charity match between yourself and Sitan Kita? Throw in Yasser Qadi, Muhammad Hijab, and Farid Gangut Teli. I see Saracen, you're doing it, huh? At this rate, you'll be like, throw a few kids in there as well. Sharam karo, yaar, sharam karo. These things are, the stuff I'm going to show you today, it's going to, honestly, it will rock your world. The stuff, the stuff, the nonsense about children that is widespread. What I'm going to show you today is not, there are no limits after this. It's that bloody disturbing. Obviously I, add my humor to certain things, but some of these topics are very, very sad, very concerning. And the fact that it's trying to normalize this stuff is what is concerning. Mufti, can normal people study and understand the Quran, or do we need scholars to teach it? Mia, you're doing it. Right, so, yeah, I mean, well, the Quran is in Arabic, so you do need to know Arabic. Otherwise, you could read the English, you could read a translation. Look, the Quran is for everyone. However, it has a what do you call it? It has a what's I guess like maybe paradigms to it. It has certain dimensions. It's that it will hit different people differently. So depending on your level, what you can take away from the Quran will be different. So the more I don't know, the more developed you are mentally, the more kind of intellectual gravitas that you bring to the table is, will reflect what you can take away from the Quran. The Quran is for everyone, though. It doesn't mean for people who it's not. It's for the regular people to be able to read it and understand it. But there will be aspects that will have complexities, just like anything. And people are on a spectrum. So some people will understand some things better than others. But it doesn't mean that um, people can't, you know, benefit. Of course they can. Of course they can. All right. So somebody said, Mr. Layth. Mr. Layth. His name is Watakwel. Ah, mashallah. His parents loved him well. Do you invite guests? Yes, on my Mufti's meetup, I do. Just leave your camera on and just come on. On that, of course, not on Monday nights with Mufti. So, yeah. Us Salafi smart. Not really for the most part, but yeah, it's a bit like, you see, the problem is Shamaz Leela. Salam Mufti, can you explain how the Hanafi madhab evolved from Abu Hanifa's approach using reason to the dogmatic school that it's become? Yeah, the Hanafi school has undergone a huge tragedy, an irony of history, that it's been hijacked many centuries later, though. The early centuries, the Hanafiya were kind of okay. But as time moved forward and the madhab progressed, or if you want to use the word progressed, but it rolled on, the madhab became an absolute. It became the so the antithetical response to Imam Abu Hanifa, the absolute opposite to him. So that's unfortunate. But maybe some Hanafis can change it, but it's really hard. But people like Sheikh Atabek, he has tried, and he's had success to a reasonable extent. So, but there's a lot of infighting in the Hanafi madhab. It's so ruthless, and the problem is the Hanafis are so locked in by their books. They're not allowed to think. They're not allowed to have opinions. They're not allowed to. It's really harsh, actually. It's very unfair, actually. And it's a shame they can't see it. But some of them can, like people like Sheikh Atabek, and he obviously doesn't abide by that system of being locked in. And he will quote other Hanafis and think out of the box and be creative like the early Hanafis. But many, especially the subcontinent scholars, they will not. Most won't be able to do that. Maybe some will. Right. So Ziryab Jamal says, Beheshti Zever, hold my. Look what somebody came and handed to me. They go, look, this one. This one, Beheshti Zever. This book is so goddamn horrid. So horrid. And but chalo, in a moment. Trajectory hermeneutics. Karima says Eagle Hair HD will block you. If anybody is if they're genuine comments and you're not hating, that's okay. If people are trying to troll, you will get blocked. So MALM, what are your coping mechanisms with all of this? That's a good question. Yeah. Um I got my upper ear pieced. Mufti, I'm indecent. That's life, man. That's life. You see, my advice actually on coping for people, because something that this showed me when I started to condemn this child rape thing, It's shocking the level of hate that came my way, especially because I highlighted what Mashallah, the wise man of the Ummah, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Sahib, right? What he has been teaching. And because his book is so widespread, so this was felt as a direct attack on his followers. So they felt that Deobandis, many, not all, but many amongst them, or some amongst them, felt that this was a direct attack on them. So they, started to troll. They started to do all of this, started to, oh, here, there, trolling, trying to do all. But I guess, to me, I don't really care. Now, hmm, reason being, I mean, one, you see, I'm not, my world isn't connected to these people's world in any way. Like the only kind of connection we have is me here making these comments, refuting them. They're not a part of my world, not a part of my life, none, not my friends, my circles, my where I chill, what I do, what my work is. Nothing is nothing to do with these people. So, and that's one key aspect that you have to have. And I've said this before that, your normal circles always make sure I've said to people that they try to not have religious circles as your normal circles of friends. Because, sometimes religious circles can be very toxic. So even if you're a part of religious circles, but have your own circles of just friends who you're just, it's a very safe zone. You're just yourself, you chill out. It's very important to have friends like that. I would say that. Um, that is a key thing. And the second thing, you have to have a life of your own. Now, I know this is going to sound, some people may be dumb, but I mean this. You have to be living your own life in whatever means that is. And by that, I don't just mean being alive, but enjoying certain stuff. You have to be, whatever your chill out is, you have to be doing it. Honestly, you have to be doing that vibe, whatever that is. And that may be multiple things for different people. To some people, it may just be certain movies, it may be reading, it may be being socializing, it may be certain circles of friends, it may be, I don't know, maybe certain people are artists, they're poets, maybe certain people are whatever you are. Maybe some people just into music, they zone out into their world, and they have, but you have to have your life which in which you enjoy what Allah has given you in this world. And that is incredibly important. And obviously, for people who, I'm sure everybody has some form of a family, they have that. And so these things are incredibly important. And then obviously, a person has to have a certain amount of thick skin. You can't really care what these people say and whether people want to troll you, whether people want, you have to remember that the power to all of this stuff is in the, just a click of a button. My advice to people who voice their concerns for something and they now know they're going to be a standing target for trolls is seriously just block people. If somebody comes on there, don't engage them, just block them. Like, you don't have time in your life for negativity. Just chill. Be yourself, relax. Go about stuff. That's what I would say is incredibly important. So these kind of things, your circles, your thing, whatever your thing is to chill, which can be interpreted in a number of ways. But chalo, whatever it is, karte raho yaar, jio or jeene do. That's the, there's this saying that in Urdu that live and let live. It's incredibly important. Right. So, um, yeah. Right, Mufti Taqi Uthmani Sahib. What about him? What's that orange drink in the background? That's my product, people. That's my product. Yeah. Yeah. So look, people, I'll tell you what, some of the things, let's get them out the way and then we'll deal with some questions. Before I actually begin, let me check up on mi gente on Facebook. Imam Trump says, "Can I sell drugs? It's my thing to do." You see, now that's an issue of legality. No, I'm joking. Astaghfirullah. Shut him, Karo. Shut him, shut him. Depends what people mean by drugs, huh? Painkillers are drugs, huh? Entheogens are deemed drugs. Mushrooms, the breakfast ones. You know what it is? A quick word on drugs. I'm going to be honest. I've said this stuff before that obviously there are certain drugs that are clearly toxic and just poison. Things like heroin and all this kind of stuff and crack and that kind of stuff is nonsense, yeah. And clearly, categorically haram. Then there are certain drugs which are more an issue of legality depending on the part of the world that you're in. And really, they are a part of the propaganda of the war on drugs by, Nixon and his government and the treaties they had internationally at that time. And we are still seeing just the repercussions of that, of President Nixon. It wasn't people thinking for themselves. And from these drugs that they have put there are things like, you've got certain things which therapeutically and scientifically have been shown to be a valuable asset for humans, if done sensibly. And people may say, well, but it's not medicine drugs, just because they rubber stamp those as okay. People are like, well, that's okay because the FDA have approved it. But, the FDA are looking to approve other drugs as well. In certain states in America, certain drugs are now approved. So, in certain parts of Europe, they are approved. In certain parts of the world, they are not only approved, they are sanctified. So, things like, which are entheogens, which bring people closer to God, whether it will be DMT, whether it will be psilocybin, those things, I term those like ukhrawi. Ukhrawi kind of um, potions, really. They are ukhrawi stuff that connects people to the akhirah, or this what is beyond this world. It is not. I accept those things are not for everyone, though, because not everyone is a person who is on such a quest to understand reality beyond its superficial and or its apparent veneer. Then there are certain dunyawi drugs which are used, and I say dunyawi because I'm talking about the categories of khair, of goodness, and not the categories of just shar, of harm and evil. So you have the ukhrawi and the dunyawi, which I find it absurd that these things are that they are locked off as illegal. That stuff like MDMA, I generally do not understand how these are, you have entheogens and you have empathogens. These are empathogens that create a greater understanding of empathy throughout this world. They bond human beings with one another. They give you a greater depth of the fabric or the texture of humanity. They allow people to heal from trauma. Many countries in the world use it for trauma healing, for PTSD, and for certain deeper levels of counseling. I can't understand how these things are grouped together with stuff like ridiculous stuff, like crack. And what the hell is that got to This is seriously, if it was up to me, I would say that the whole, these things should really be opened up for the whole world if it was up to me. Because why not? Because you would have a much better world. If two countries were about to go to war and you gave them this, they'd be like, God, I have so much love for you. If India, Pakistan were about to go to war and then they had this. Imran Khan would be like, he'd be like, Modi, I know you fired into our territory, but I just want to understand why. Like, help me understand. Yeah. But yeah, so these things, that's so you have empathogens and you have entheogens. These are really just ridiculous. And if you read up the studies that have been done on these, there's been several studies you can watch, talks. You can see that when the FDA had outlawed some of these in America, part of the war on drugs, even the high judges ruled that these should not be placed in that kind of a category because they have a totally different purpose and objective. But it was just that, you see, people don't understand the politics going on. There's a lot of politics behind laws sometimes, and those politics, like Nixon kind of needed to prove a point. There were certain issues going on with South America. This, and then obviously his treaties, to because America being the superpower needed to influence several countries. His then treaties with India, kind of drugs as contraband drugs, just to get certain treaties and in turn offer them certain aid. And so anyway, chalo, that's politics, siyasa. But the point is that it is a shame that humanity is so kind of blinded. Is this me or is this something I put in the coffee? Anyway, somebody said just make sure you're not high at the time of prayer. Man, what is this being high? What is this, huh? Well, anyway, so I thought that's you think Bitcoin is used somebody. I'm just trying to read some of these comments. Psychedelic drugs. Yeah, yeah. I'm saying that which no imam is going to say to you. But I'm being honest, man. These things, it's a shame that they're not available to people due to politics and stuff like this. But they are, if you just look at the psychological studies, the sample size, the 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 lack of any kind of biological dependencies, the lack of kind of side effects in any serious matter at all. I mean, one of the studies I was reading, 1,000 people, not one displayed any serious kind of symptoms at all, not even one. Um, that's just one study, and these studies have been replicated in so many places. From a scientific perspective, I think we're embarking on a new era, though. As younger people are kind of becoming more and more taking certain posts, and their thinking is kind of starting to outnumber that old, um, the old generation. These things are opening up. So, all right, people, let's move on. Somebody said, Mufti, watch Asim al Hakim's video on mixed gatherings. Oh, you're another Hakim. There's two Hakims in this ummah. one is mashallah. Mashallah, mashallah. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. One is Maulana Hakim Ashraf Ali Thanvi Sahib, and the other one is Maulana Asim al Hakim. Ah, your wisdom, huh? Ah, your ummah. No wonder we're totally done over. So, yeah, let's take a look at some of your questions, people. The symptoms of MDMA are greater than of alcohol, but alcohol is banned, or is it? Yet alcohol isn't banned. What the hell are you on about? Alcohol's available everywhere. Alcohol is ridiculously harmful. Ridiculously. Neanderthals contribute 1.1 to 4% of the genomes of non-African modern humans. What happens to Neanderthals on Judgment Day? Some of them have lived on. Haven't you seen Sita and Gita and Limbada Saab and these people? You go to madrasa, they ended up in the Darul Ulooms. were Neanderthals conscious the way we are? I don't think they were conscious the way we are. Obviously, they were conscious. Like, so consciousness is a spectrum. Yeah. So you have intellectual capacity. So animals, they're on this spectrum. Some animals are much more intelligent than others, like dogs, incredibly intelligent. But that's kind of as well. Dogs come from wolves, you see. Wolves are incredibly intelligent. So dogs are wolves. I'm sure everybody knows that. But so crows, for example, incredibly intelligent creatures. Um, Dolphins are incredibly intelligent. These are non-primates, of course. Dolphins, elephants. Elephants are incredibly intelligent from the animal world. But then you have primates. Primates are obviously very intelligent. You know, they can pick up codes, they can recognize symbols, they can do stuff. They say that a chimpanzee could have the intelligence of, what is it? Of maybe a 3-year-old child. And a 3-year-old child can be intelligent. You know, it's not, I don't mean Einstein intelligent, but intelligent. A 3-year-old is not dumb, you know. So that's quite clever when you think about it. You know, some of these chimpanzees and these bonobo apes, and very clever. Um, and they display a sense of morality. They display it to at a low level, but they display a sense of justice. It's interesting. And you know, if you've looked into primatology, you will find these studies. They are available, um, and I've spoken about them in the past. In fact, there's a good book about a primate and a philosopher, and it's by the. I've got. I'm sure I've got them here somewhere, actually. Right, but it's probably anyway. But I've spoken of it in the past. Now, Neanderthals would have been much higher than that. So now there's some studies that show Neanderthals most likely spoke, but they didn't speak in the, in the complex way that we do. So, but they may have spoken in certain, you see, because animals communicate through sounds. Like, they will have a cry that means watch out. There's, like, even monkeys, they will have a certain cry that means, something's attacking from above. They will have a certain cry which means watch out, that there's a lion or something, or there's something, some kind of predator coming from below. They will have and sometimes monkeys, they use these cries to trick each other. So if you look at some primatological studies, you'll find that chimpanzees will sometimes, they'll make that cry because they'll see the other monkey's got some food. So that monkey will think, oh damn, that there's some kind of, I don't know, like lion, or there's something coming, some kind of a beast. So he'll make the land cry. So he'll look out so he'll climb the tree because he thinks there's something coming from the land. Now, then the other chimpanzee will go and steal his food. Chalak, shatir, shatir. So this is intelligence. Now, Neanderthals were much more intelligent than primates, obviously, but they wouldn't have been as sophisticated as modern day humans. So now it seems to show that maybe they actually had sounds and words, but their language wasn't as complex as our language, which is fascinating. Yeah. Because they had bigger brains than us. I'm sure you all know that anyway. Um, Faizan, we are the future. Uh, right. Rumor has it you are a Gora. What does that mean? A Gora is a white guy, so I don't know. I'm pretty dark skinned, mate, but so Mufti, what do you think about anthropology? What do I think about anthropology? I don't know. Anthropology is great. It's great. Um, may I introduce you to the primordial tradition known as Sufism? Yeah, yeah. I mean, you see, somebody said elephants also have bigger brains. Yeah, but it doesn't work quite like that, because when you measure the brain, You have to measure it per ratio in relation to the mass of the body. So elephants' brains are bigger than humans' brains, but they're not big, pro rata. If you're looking at it, if you're comparing like for like, so what the human brain constitutes per mass, an elephant brain is not more in that sense per its own mass, of course, not the human's mass. So you have to look how much percent of the body is the brain compared to that body, not compared to a different body. So Neanderthals, even though they were slightly shorter than modern anatomical humans, um, and they were slightly stockier and slightly stronger and a bit built, they say that they would be able to bench press better than us. But for example, their leg bones were slightly shorter than modern human leg bones. So, yet their brain capacity was larger than the modern human brain. So that's interesting. But to me, you see, this is where Allah is saying in the Quran that inni ja'ilun fil ardi khalifa, that I am placing on the earth now something that will come at the end, a species that will come after, that will kind of seal the deal. Khalifa comes from the Arabic word khalf, ma takhallaf, okay, what comes after, or mastakhlafa shay'an akhar, or what kind of succeeds another thing at the end. So that is a khalifa. It later on went on much, it was a post-Islamic occurrence to understand Khalifa to mean this kind of king or monarch. This was even in the Prophet's time that the Khalifa did not mean that. So it's fascinating that it's only in the time of it begins in the time of the Khulafa, and then in the time of Bani Umayyah this gets cemented that Khalifa is these kings, these monarchs, the Muslim kind of ruler, the dynast of the Muslim world is called a Khalifa. This was not in the time of the Prophet. The Arabs did not use this word Khalifa. You will not find ever. The Arabs were spread out. You had the three major Arab kind of spaces. You had the Middle East, which was the major Arab kingdoms. So you had the Ghassanids and you had the Lakhmids and you had these kind of dynasties in which was modern day Iraq and the Levant and places like that. And then you had Arabia Petrea, which is where Arabian Peninsula would be, and slightly north of that. But places like um, Sham or Petra or these places were in the northern Arab kingdom. They were the kind of well-to-do. That was where the Arab culture was. Arab culture wasn't in Arab culture was everywhere, but it wasn't epitomized by the Hijaz, where Mecca and these places were later on. So you have to remember the Arabs were from before the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet did not begin Arabs or Arabic or you know however you want to understand it. So he was from amongst them, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So you had Arabia Petrea, and then you had Arabia Felix, which is the southern, which would be modern day Yemen and the southern part of the Arabian Peninsula. So these were separate, disparate kind of kingdoms, and they had their own style, and they may have been varying slightly in ethnicities. Although later on they all grouped as Arabs, in their day and age, they did not see each other as one people. So it's a bit like saying how, I mean, this is a poor analogy, but to give you an approximation, it's a bit like saying with the modern day states that you have, modern, um, bloody hell, the modern state structure we have, nation states. I suppose Indians won't see themselves as Pakistanis. And Pakistanis won't see themselves as Indians, and they won't see themselves as Bangladeshi, and they won't see them because they see each other as disparate, separate entities. Even though maybe many of them, I mean, I know there's differences, but to a complete foreigner, if these borders didn't exist, they could appear as one people. You understand? Um, I know there's obviously India is huge, so they do start to vary and change, but to a complete foreigner, they could be seen as one. So just as when people look at Europeans and they see like, oh, these are just one people because they're all white, but to them they're not one. Like they don't see, like the Franks don't see themselves as the English, and the who don't see themselves as the Swedes, who don't see so they see themselves as separate entities. So the Arabs saw themselves separate. They didn't think, oh, the people of the Hijaz are like us. And the culture, just as today you have the culture, let's say the fashion capital is, people always look to, I don't know, Milan, Paris, London, New York, these kind of places. The cultural capital in that time was up north. Places like Hira were the cultural capital, not down in the Arabian Peninsula. They weren't the cultural capital for Arabs. But this all comes as a surprise to people because they don't really know this stuff. But anyway, let's move on, people. Don't give what's going on. Mufti should do quick fire Q&As. Yeah, let's do some quick fire Q&A, man. Let's do it, man. Sapiens was an interesting read. Sapiens was one of the most powerful books I'd ever read, I have to say. I learned something new. Alright, you're doing it. Mufti, is the hadith the Salafi quote that obey your leader even if he was to break your back? Huh? All right. No, look, all these, most of these hadith to do with rulers and leaders, most of them will all be fabricated during the times of the rulers. So uh, the Umayyads and the Abbasids, the early Abbasids. So during that time, in order to suppress rebellions, these hadith would have been fabricated. Because the Prophet wouldn't have really got involved in this kind of stuff with people. Mufti, have you seen the Snyder Cut? No, I haven't actually. What is the Snyder Cut? Mufti read my comment. Mama, I made it. Mwah, Gio, Gio, Gio. My super chat. Somebody sent a super chat. Let me try and find it. Taha, you're doing it. Much love for the super chat. If we take Nietzsche's quote seriously, if you gaze too long into the abyss, it gazes right back at you. Uh-huh. In some way, you give dead ideas some life back. No. Of the Islamic tradition. Mufti, was Khadija really in her 40s when she married the Prophet? Wouldn't she be in a state of menopause when she conceived 7 children? Most likely, Khadija radiallahu anha was in her late 20s. She wasn't actually 40 years old. This was something that was popularized later on, in more so in recent times. Um, people popularized it for whatever reason, but the stronger narrations state she was about 28 and the Prophet was about 25, which sounds about right. So, yeah, she wasn't 40. Although people just, you see, 40 was a number that the Arabs just kind of threw around for an average. Like when people say, oh, the person is not of age in that sense, but, the person, is mature. The person is, like now we have this thing that, let's say, I don't know, to buy alcohol, you have to be, or to buy certain products, you have to be 25. There's just an age, right? You just got to be 25, or you got to be 21. It's just it's an age that's just put there because people think, well, at this age, you now can endure responsibility. So there was this understanding that the Arabs always had about 40. It was just a number they just kind of just used. It just had this nice ring to it for them. So they would always say, oh, the person's 40 years old, meaning, he's like now life, he's got a grip on life now. So yeah, have I caught up with the chat? Right, so this quote of Taha, this question, are there more super chats? All right, there are. This, about if you stare into the abyss, this doesn't mean Islam. But what it means is what I understand from what Nietzsche was saying, Friedrich Nietzsche. Oh, wow. I do like Nietzsche, though, I have to say. Well, I like certain things about Nietzsche. Why not, yaar? Why not, yaar? Y- I mean, he was a bit weird, unquestionably, but there were certain things he challenged, and his genealogy of morals. He just kind of flipped everything on its head, man. I think it was wow. It was kind of breathtaking in a way when you think about it. But anyway, and his famous "God is dead and we have killed him." You're Nietzsche. You're doing it. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And then he was kind of just like debilitated for like the last 10 years of his life. Clearly didn't make him stronger. That's like an irony. If the divine hand was at play, one would say that is it. But he kind of made people think about certain things, and he spoke in a way which was slightly accessible to people. So that's Frederick, huh? Frederick, huh? Not Frederick Chopin, Frederick Nietzsche. So, yeah, Chopin. The speaking of music, there's this thing which isn't actually Chopin's, but it's attributed to him. And I was just listening to it the other day. So wow, honestly, so mesmerizing. It's actually by what's the? But it's listed, and it's become so commonly attributed to Chopin because somebody on YouTube. Look at the new world, the world we live in, people. That's so mad, isn't it? When you think about it, that YouTube has kind of like altered people's. It's just altered a portion of reality because somebody's put this on YouTube as the Spring Waltz, but it's actually called or is it Mariage d'Amour of what's his name? Yeah. It'll come to me. But you'll find it under Chopin, his thing Spring Waltz. And it's just so I find it so breathtaking, wallahi. I think, wow. It's not actually his though, but so many people in the world now think it's his. That is how modern technology it alters facts. Because now it's like maybe millions of people attribute this to Chopin when actually it's somebody else's because somebody uploaded it on YouTube and misattributed it. Wah, wah. That is the world we live in, man. It's amazing, isn't it, when you think about it? So let's take some questions, people. Um, Mufti, you should go on Hamza's Den. Oh, Gary Glitter. Oh, Gary Glitter. Why should I go on Gary Glitter's Den? Mm, all right. Question: can you attain yaqeen before death? Yeah, I think you can in some ways, but it depends what you mean by yaqeen. I feel there's a term that certain psychoanalysts would use, which is good enough. They would say like good enough parenting, or something is good enough or something. And in that sense, I would say that you can. There's a good enough certainty that one can attain. Mufti, can you do a mind trap with Dr. Ali Atai? I'm not sure who that is, but do ask them and let me know. Send me the details. Karima, it's all about the vibes. It's all about the vibes, honestly. Right. I did say I was going to take some rapid questions. Go on, let's do some rapid questions. What is the duty of a scholar nowadays? Honestly, I feel I'm doing these rapidly so people you can throw in your questions. I feel the duty of a scholar is to salvage this deen from sinking. And it is to extend that pulse of this faith to those who even have an atom's weight of it. That to kind of to ensure that nobody is deprived of the mercy of God. Because I'm telling you, if you leave it to the clergy, you this faith, I doubt it. You give it this another entire generation. Like, wow, this is, I heard some of these people say the fastest growing religion, Islam. Mate, you've got no idea. Seriously, people are flocking out of this faith. They're just not announcing it, but they don't believe in it like that anymore. They don't believe in it because it's like all fairy tales to them. It's just like it doesn't make any sense. But they just, maybe it's not a fight they want to pick. But if they're going to be honest, they will just tell you. I think I shared a story previously. It's somebody was telling me his daughter coming back from secondary school said to him once. She said that you can't really believe in all this stuff, can you? Like this, and then he explained and he gave some of my kind of responses, and then to be fair, she accepted that, and then he was telling me that he said, well, she kind of thought about it, and they followed on the discussion, and then she said that I don't. You're right. I don't have a problem with that. But she said, I don't think most Muslims think like that or believe that though. Right. So, right. Is there hope with scholars like Javed Ramadi? Of course, Javed Ramadi Saab is an amazing scholar. Amazing scholar. Um, Mufti, does Surah Talaq verse 4 imply young girls can get married? No, it doesn't, and I've got an explanation on that. It's speaking about women, and it's actually speaking about women, and the whole verse is actually speaking about pregnancy. I mean, just look at what the actual thing is talking about, and it says, well, how do you know? Because there ought to be a waiting period in case the woman is pregnant, and especially in that day and age you couldn't know. So it says, well, they should wait this many months, or to be on the safe side, I mean, they should wait this many menstrual cycles, or they should give birth, or give it this many months. What about those who don't have regular cycles? So then just give them a certain allocated month. And it's sick people that are justifying underage girls by using these kind of verses of the Quran. Should be embarrassed of themselves. Wallahi, they should be embarrassed, ashamed of themselves. Because, these people don't understand. I say this and they think, somebody said, oh, Mufti is jumping on this, rape awareness vibe. And I read it and I was just lost for words. I was thinking, for the love of God, like, really, is that how? What is wrong with you, man? Like, what do you mean that somebody's like, oh, this Mufti, why doesn't he talk about the real issue, which is Jesus going to come back? Why is he trying to jump on? Why is he trying to, what is it? This rape awareness vibe. Wallahi, it is these kind of people. My only solace is that, wallahi, their daughters or nieces or granddaughters will be grateful that I said what I said. That they will hold their heads high about this faith, thinking that their dad or uncle or granddad was a prat, okay, and he was a useless, whatever he was, but at least somebody spoke for Islam. Because these things are sickening, and I'm going to show some examples later on. That these are serious topics. They're not like, oh, and people have to be embarrassed. I mean, stop trying. If one is a person has sick desires, and they want to do something with kids, that person is a monster. That's one thing. The other thing is they then to to justify, bring Allah, throw Allah under the bus, first of all, then throw his prophet under the bus, just so they can justify some sick, desire about kids and say, oh, but look, the Quran says it. No, it doesn't say it. Calm the hell down. What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah. And then the funny thing is, these same people, you tell them different words. Oh, no, no, the Quran is. Oh, but it hasn't clearly said that. Oh, but this can mean this and this can mean. Acha, acha, acha. Right. So, uh, right. Mufti, can a man marry more than 4 wives? My response on that is there is no limitation on the amount of nikahs that are done. I've got a video on that. You can watch the video. Right. Oh, somebody had asked about the abyss. The abyss is about dark topics. It's not about Islam or something. Any kind of dark. What Friedrich Nietzsche had said is, if you fight monsters, you have to be careful you don't become a monster. This is why one of the things I was saying earlier on about even these topics, I have to make sure that I'm kind of removed then and I'm doing my thing, chilling. I'm with my friends. I have to make sure, because you see, because when you go into something dark, even if you're fighting the monsters, it can kind of consume you. So you have to be always careful. That's what Nietzsche was on about. Taqlid. Yeah, the taqlid is something about blindly following. See, in Islam, you shouldn't really be blindly following. You should, obviously, there's a certain amount of, you're going to learn by learning through channels, learning through, means and mediums. So we're going to pick a particular madhab, a school of law, and we're going to learn things. And we may even become very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about the Maliki school of law, but it doesn't mean you're a blind follower. Your blind allegiance is just blind faith. You see, faith is built on reason, and then you have your allegiance to God and His Messenger in Islam. That's it. Everybody else is just a guideline. It's a guidance. It's great. You may love them. You may have favorites. You may, have certain go tos. You may have, but they're not. It's not God. It's not the Prophet. You don't need to kind of bend over backwards and sacrifice everything to defend those people. Um, Mufti, get me out of prison. Hi, Gary Glitter. You're doing it, man. I thought you were running the Hamza's den. What is your opinion on the parents of the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Talib? I've said before, Abu Talib radiallahu an. I have a video explaining that I do believe that clearly, obviously, the Prophet's parents were way before the Prophet, but Abu Talib, I believe, is a cherished soul in Islam, and there's a misunderstanding about him, and it's unfair, really, as part of the kind of propaganda that ensued. It became, to kind of get back at the Shia. Some of the Sunni scholars just kind of threw Abu Talib, radiallahu an, under the bus, and I feel that's it's unfortunate because in life, like, look, just think about your own life. When I think of my life, wallahi, there are certain people who, at a time of need, they may have, without being asked, may have kind of extended a gesture or some kind of help or some kind of aid. Until this day, it weighs so heavily on me. And I hold them in such high esteem for that. And I try to do this with people, by the way. I'll try, like, if I know, I can help certain people in certain ways, I will try because that is true humanity. And when the Prophet ﷺ was in the greatest of need, there were certain figures that were there to provide that help, which the Prophet never forgot. And it was his backbone. And they were, amongst them was one of the key people was Abu Talib. And that's why I say Abu Talib radiallahu an. And look, if he was against what the Prophet was doing, he would never have supported him like that. It's the Prophet's own uncles who are the other people that are against him. He was also an uncle. it's only because he saw what the Prophet was believing and what his mission, that he supported him. So I would say, look, don't get into those debates. It was just propaganda, and it was really just kind of, just tit for tat against the Shia that some of the Sunnis started to bash down, and then they started to throw Abu Talib under the bus because he's the father of Ali, radiallahu an, just to kind of spite back at the Shia. So that's my take on it, but I do have a video for it. Yeah. Gary Glitter says, Mufti, it's not funny. I'm suffering here in Thailand. Right. So, what is going on, people? Let's take a look at some of the Facebook questions. All right. So, people, mi gente on Facebook, what is going on? Imam Trump saying cougars popularized. Yeah, what kind of discussions are going on Facebook? Right. So, mm, right, what is going on? Henna, you're doing it. You're doing it. Um, Mufti tips on how to lose weight during Ramadan. Just don't stuff yourself. Oh, sorry. What I mean by that is don't just eat very chaotically. Like, you're going to drown yourself in food, then drown yourself in food, then just sleep, then just drown yourself. Um, I do stand to my fatwa, which is that not that you need to. I feel that those people who are going to hold the entire whatever the timing of the fast is, that's a superb thing, and may Allah reward them magnificently. And I feel on the other end of the spectrum that there are rukhas. Okay, there's different ways of looking at it, that it is permissible, the ruling that if you split day and night into half, so you've got 12 hours each. That is the minimum fast a person can have, which is a 12-hour fast. I do stand by that fatwa. I'm not the first person to come up with it, but I support its validity. That in this part of the world, if a person did have a 12-hour, 12 plus hour, whether they want to make it 13 hours, whether they want to make it whatever 14, whatever it is, but up to them, and they can just time it. So, for example, they could fast 5 to 5, 5 to 6, 5 to 7, however they want to do it. And that is a valid fast. I do stand by that. I'm not saying you need to take that, but I feel that that person's fast is valid as well. So, yeah. All right. Crypto is going up now. I'm mad I haven't invested. Crypto is the future, people. I was telling you all earlier on this year. Crypto is the one. Um, mhm. Right. So, all right, just taking a look at some of the Facebook questions. Right. Damn, this light's kind of, my eye. This ant juice that I've spilt in my eye, so it's kind of all right. So, Mufti, you naughty naughty, you shortening the rosa. At the end of the day, Allah gives His dispensation, so why not take them? After all, we have to face Allah. And then Allah's going to say, well, I gave you these chances. Why didn't you take them? I gave you these opportunities. Right. Somebody's saying, I can't do the fast because they're a heroin addict. I don't know whether that's a joke or the person's serious. If they are serious, I would say do try to, inshallah, look for help. Maybe use Ramadan as an excuse, as a pretext to get that help. I, you know, s- Whether it's rehab, whether it's, mind over matter. I firmly believe that if you have the willpower, you can make it. You can get through anything. Honestly, I believe you can overcome these addictions. There are biological dependencies. I accept that with things like heroin. But you underestimate the power of the human will, that it is, it can move mountains if you put your mind and heart to it. May Allah give you strength, and anybody who's struggling with these kind of debilitating addictions. Right, so just discovered your channel through Reddit. All right, and you're awesome. You're doing it, yeah. You're doing it. Much love. Gio. Mwah. Mufti, will you be surprised? I had a friend at work who was a heroin addict and nobody knew. I mean, yeah, it is quite surprising, but I accept it. Yeah, I accept that people can. Um, all right, so for some reason, Mufti, do you feel there is a sexual abuse problem within the Indo-Pak community? I feel that I didn't used to think there was, but I have come across a lot of cases of in the recent few years. They've been very disturbing to learn about. I still don't know how widespread it is because it's so taboo that people won't speak about it. But I have spoken on these cases that I'm speaking about. I've spoken to people firsthand, as in they are the actual victims, not hearsay. And I've spoken in some of these cases to their families. So when it's been children, I've spoken to, for example, the mother as well. I've spoken to, so they have been, yeah, and it is very, you see, the thing with these are, it's so disturbing to even kind of just contemplate. I don't know whether it's like how widespread it is. In fact, Dr. Imran from Metroflex, he had mentioned to me that he was involved with certain studies and certain groups that were trying to deal with sexual abuse within the Muslim community within, I think, Birmingham. And he was telling me that it was quite shocking. You'd be very shocked how, if you look at the stats. But I didn't really look at that in detail, so I'm not sure. But I do believe it is unfortunately there. And it is very buried. It's very taboo. Too much ant juice. Please tell us about Bahira. I don't know. Mufti, is Bitcoin permissible? Of course. Watch my clips on cryptocurrency, man. Watch my clip on, the whole Dogecoin and the whole thing. Watch it on that. I go into all of this. Absolutely. Bitcoin is the future. Not just Bitcoin, but I mean cryptocurrency. Right. So, advice to many. Right. Let's move on to some of these topics, people. Right. So, first of all, I want to highlight something about cults and why there's no. You see, we have to understand that there is no future for cults in Islam in our current world. There's no future for it. And I'm being honest, and this is part of the problem that is bothering people. Look, I've been having these clashes with these some of these Deobandi imams. I want you to picture something. This is a little thought experiment here. Imagine, imagine whether it's for you or for someone else, they left Islam. Just imagine how not just the faith aspect, the social aspect, the ramifications that has on that individual's life. Just think about it for a moment. Their family being cut off, a threat, all these, the kind of turmoil it would send a person through. Just think about it. Leaving a sect when you are a practicing participant in a very zealous kind of participant in that sect, in that cult, is in many ways much more difficult than actually leaving the whole of Islam for a regular Muslim. And let me explain why. Let's take some of these guys that we were speaking about, uh, Sita and Gita as an example, right? If I can find the thing here. If we take some of these guys as an example, and this is about them personally, but this is just to give you it could be about anyone that, but just to give you an example, these guys, let's say, as a case study, we're psychologizing it. Now, Mulvi, Halim, Big Toe, or whether it's Mulvi Usman, like these kind of people or people like them, their whole life since has just been in a cult. Now, you have to understand this. Like, look at the layers involved. Yeah. They spent probably something like 8, some of them maybe 10 years in a madrasa. In a small town in the UK, yeah. The main madrasas for these things are going to be Darul Bury, Darul Bolton, Darul Blackburn. These are their main kind of madrasas. Maybe Dewsbury. So they stay in this madrasa their whole, like a huge part of their lives. They don't go to normal schools. They don't go to colleges, normal colleges like people, or universities in that sense. They stay in this. They're made to dress like this. Yeah, as you can see, they will. If I can just bring up, where did it go? Now you just look at them. Like, I don't mean to. I don't mean to diss them personally, but I'm being serious. Just looking at them, yeah. I don't mean to be like kind of raw or anything, but honestly, like very scruffy. They'll have a shaved head, not allowed to grow their hair. They'll have to shave their tashes, walk around in a frock all day, wear this big white hat on their heads, walk around in flip flops. Like, I'm just being honest, in the UK, you're not going to be really integrate with the greater society like that. And then they don't go to schools. They don't regular schools. They don't go to regular colleges. They don't have those circles. They don't mix really with non-Muslims at all. The only time they see a non-Muslim is maybe, just passing them, or they walk into a shop or something like this. And a lot of those people might even see them as, oh, are these people foreigners? They might picture them as maybe, these people are not from this country. And I'm not saying this I know they're going to think,
Why I'm saying this?
then they speak English like this. They speak it with a bit of a bud kind of accent. Now, so you've got all of this. Now, what happens is, I'm just adding to this case study, and this isn't personal to these guys. It could be anyone, but this is just a case study. Then they never get any kind of, and I don't mean this. I'm not speaking about halal haram here. I'm speaking about a human experience. They don't get to interact with the other gender, so they don't interact with girls. Yeah, they just stay amongst boys, and that too, boys just looking like them. So they spend something like 10 years in that crowd. They just have these little, and they have their teachers who are mainly, they're not from this country. They've come here and they just teaching them in Urdu. And that too, their Urdu isn't immaculate. And then these people speak this kind of English between themselves. Why I'm saying this, and, this kind of what I mean, man. Uh, and they don't ever have girlfriends. They don't ever even interact pleasantly with girls. And when they, let's say they come across girls in the city center or on buses or in traffic, there's no way, like, they look what they look like. Like, I don't mean to be raw, but there's no way they're gonna, Like, come on, regular girls, they're not. That's not going to happen. Not in a million years. So you see, what happens is naturally they're attracted. They're going to be attracted to girls, but then girls will never show them that affection. Not on the streets generally, because look how they are. Now, they will obviously justify, well, that's because this is all haram anyway. And then they have this more resentment towards girls because they never got any attention from women. So, this misogyny builds up. And what they do is they justify in their minds that Allah will kind of reward us. Don't worry, Allah's going to reward us. You add, there's more layers to this. They're told that movies are haram, so they're not allowed to watch movies. They're told music is haram. They're not allowed to listen to music. They're told, for God's sake, masturbating is haram. So they probably do watch some movies in secret, and they probably listen to some music, and they feel so guilty, so terrible, and they probably, jerk one off now and then, and they feel so guilty about these things, and they hate it, and then they hate themselves. And so what they do is they're obviously trying to repent to God, and this is the lives that they grow up in. Then what happens is they live in these kind of micro echo chambers. Yeah, these echo where they've got a group of friends that are just like them, that are going through their struggle, this caveman struggle within the UK, within the 21st century. I mean, it's 2020 for God's sake, but they'll look like something that has just walked out of Tora Bora in Afghanistan in 1980. But and then so they have these little micro chambers, which echo chambers, that they just kind of reinforce each other. Don't worry, Allah's going to reward us. Allah's going to do this. And then what happens? They go through a madrasa. Now, what do you do for a living? Because, okay, some of them may have family businesses. The odd person may have, their family may support them or say, why don't you jump onto this business? Most of them won't. So what they do is they become imams in mosques, because that's the only thing you can do, which is underpaid, undervalued, and you just become another part of that cog on the wheel. Now, so they do things like, for importance, they will go and give speeches, give a Jummah khutbah. Now, they're only allowed in their own mosques, and what they have a kind of dominance hierarchy. So they have the great mashayikh like this Limbada Sahib, Abdul Rahim Limbada, who sits at the top, and these kind of people who give their blessings, shower him down, and then they all try to kind of seek his pleasure, and this is what happens. You see, the problem is now they come across somebody like me, who also has access to religion, who lives life, who kind of doesn't believe movies are haram, doesn't believe music is haram, doesn't believe certain things are haram, and does whatever he wants, still participates in normal society, and has an understanding of the faith that challenges their understanding. And I would argue is far superior. Not to sound elitist, rather. You see, now, so, wait a minute. Their version is, but if I chose the deen, wasn't I supposed to get all this in the akhirah? So how do these guys get it? And, why do they get to look like that? Why does he get to wear a chain and an earring and still be called a mufti? And still have people listening to him? And I do my bud thing and I just get a few people listening to me. And so the pressure is immense. Now you see, if they quit that world, like let's say one of these guys was to walk out of this cult, their world would fall apart, because remember, their families would be Deobandi, that would disown them. Their teachers would disown them. The only survival mechanisms they have are those micro echo chambers that would fall apart and start condemning them and trolling them. Where would they go? Where would they go? Like they wouldn't have anywhere to go. So it's easier to just bite the bullet and keep reinforcing that cult narrative. So, and to be, in all fairness, the thing about me is I like to be fair. You see, so in all fairness, if I was them, I would hate me too. Honestly, I would really hate me with a vengeance. But that is the problem. But then, okay, that's their struggle. I would advise, my advice to any young people who are part of these Darul Ulooms going through the system, I would say, look, honestly, make sure you need to start taking steps to kind of break out of this system as a person. So start mingling with other people, start expanding your social circles, your religious circles, your other, like, start connecting with other people. And the reason I said their struggle is more difficult than somebody even abandoning the faith, because a normal Muslim, if he just abandoned the faith, he could just move to, let's say, for example, a person in Birmingham decided not to be Muslim. He wasn't practicing anyway, and his struggle would just be with his family. Now, let's say he said, I know, I went to university in Manchester, I'm moving to Manchester. In Manchester, he would just live his normal life. Like, nobody would really know. He's not going to go around wearing a signpost saying, I abandoned Islam. But to these people, because they can't blend in, they don't know how to. I mean, for God's sake, it's like, the, to blend in, we need, like, I don't know, the kind of the mountains from Tora Bora in the background, and like a donkey walking alongside, and we need the Russia-Afghan war going on in the background in the 1980s. I mean, so how do they blend in? So they can't. And so this is why I was saying that. Okay, so I want to highlight that is a case study of why these things, and why, okay, that's the problem. Why there's no place for it in the future in the West is because the common Muslim is world galaxies away from them. A normal Muslim hasn't been brought up like that in a cave. So they're your regular kind of Muslims, okay, cultural Muslims. So these people are stamping this onto them, this is haram, misogyny, because they have a lot of resentment towards women, because it's natural, that sour grapes, when you can't have something, you hate on it. It's like, oh, well, those grapes are sour anyway, it? It's just that, sour grapes. So, but because younger Muslims have become the majority, and the younger lot don't really care about this kind of, so they're not going to listen. So it's now becoming a struggle, you see. And the future of Muslims in the West has no place for this. It's not going to work. You need people that are of our day and age and of this world, not from Andromeda. That's actually being that's insulting to Andromeda. So, yeah. And this is why I say to people that, look, you need to fix. Now, this is a different point here, a different topic. You need to readjust your concept. This is regular Muslims of God. God is not this benevolent tyrant that these people portray God to be. They say God is like benevolent, but he's a tyrant. He's going to take you to task for everything. Oh, you listen to music, let's burn his ears. He watched a movie. Let's get some hot molten rods and burn out his eye. I mean, what the hell is going on? Oh, you touched yourself. You self-stimulated. Rather. burn burn the peasants. That is not God. God is, ma qadarullah haqqa qadri. Allah is way too majestic. Look at the God who created the cosmos around us. You think he cares about this kind of stuff? Oh, this person touched himself. Himself. Throw him in, burn him, burn him. That, you need to wallahi, one of the greatest things that happened to me in my life was me reconfiguring and realigning my perception of God. Because once I came to understand that that's not God, God is what he constantly reminds you of, Rahman ar-Rahim. It's way too majestic. for this stuff. Then I started to understand the wonders of this world. I started to understand why Allah wants you to live in this world with the deen complementing your life, not impeding it, not being an impediment, but something that you wear proudly. And you it adds flavor to your life, not this thing where you just struggle with it and hate it, and you have to, oh, my life is a misery, it's a prison, no, it isn't. Allah's made a wonderful world. You should enjoy it. So that's my message to people, to regular folks out there, that we really need to reconfigure, realign our perception of God. How my views changed over time, it really was, for me, it was a quest. Okay, it was a journey. There was a lot of introspection, looking within, looking without as well. Understanding, reading stuff, understanding verses, looking at things. But I would tell you now, as a mufti, I would tell you that that is the way to understand Allah. So, right, Mufti, how much you benching? I need the gyms to open up, man. I'm suffering, honestly. So that's all of that answered. Mufti's wife left him. Which one? Yeah. You know me. I say, look, be in this world as a traveler. Yeah. You see, I'm open about things. I say very clearly, mut'a is not haram. Why do you think these people hate me so much? They say, yeah, why does this guy get to say that and get away with it? We say music might not be haram and we get lynched. Anyway, right, let's move on. Right, so what is going on? Mufti, at what age did you become enlightened in this sense? This thing was very recent, in the last decade. It was in the last decade. The last decade was a real kind of philosophical journey for me, honestly. The 30s, when I'd kind of hit 30 and going on, that there was a real quest that lasted years for me, actually. But I feel in many ways that's helpful to you guys, that I can kind of provide things to you just without you having to spend years. Right, so guys, let's talk a little bit about what's going on with 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 Sita and Gita and this whole thing, Limbada Saab and Beheshti Zevr. I want to kind of get a bit of this out the way because it is a bit dark as well. So I'd rather it was just out the way. Now, I've highlighted again, I just want to be clear on something. Look, first of all, on any topic, I have said that people, if they want to contact me for a discussion, I'm always available. Okay, can jump onto Mindtrap. Let's do this. I've always put that there. Now, I highlighted that there were certain issues going on in certain texts that were widespread. Yes. Now, people started to say that, okay, so people started to misconstrue my words. I'm not saying no book in the past hasn't said something that is horrendous. Many books have that were written in the medieval times. Naturally, I mean, have you picked up a book on medicine from, the medieval ages? So that's not my point. My point was that there are certain books that are part of a curriculum within the United Kingdom. They are being taught in maktabs and they are being presented as the go-to. This is Islam 101 for young girls. They have been translated into English and mass distributed. I don't mean randomly. Somebody said to me, oh, Mufti, in volume 4 of Al-Bayan wa Tahsil, it says something that an underage girl can get married. Abeo Chache, your child is not going to just stumble upon volume 4 of Al Bayan wa Tahsil and go into reading Masail. Okay. But however, a book like this that is designed and distributed nationwide, thousands upon thousands, I would say hundreds of thousands of copies. I said this, and somebody from down the road just came and said, "Oh, look, here's one in my house," and just handed it to me. And I don't even live in a Muslim area. So look, this is widely distributed. It's commonplace in the households now, and it's made for who? Is it made for grown-ups? Is it made for academic research? Is it a reference book, which is the Bayan wa Tahsil is 18 volumes? Is that what it is? No, it's a book designed to gift to young girls so they can learn Islam. Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Sahib says in the beginning of his book that I have written this book so women, little girls, can learn Islam and then they don't need to learn it from anything else. That's what he actually says in it. Right, so there are major problematic things being said in it that are normalizing child rape. Now, you have to understand there's no place in Islam for this. Stop getting defensive. Stop trying to justify it. Stop trying to bend over backwards and say, well, look, oh, do you know what the response was that people said? Let me tell you some of the responses. Wow. So the first response, somebody wrote something, and I'll show that in a moment, and I'll come to it. But their responses are, well, such and such scholar said it from 800 years ago as well. And it's in such and such reference book. First of all, I don't care. They are wrong too. You know, if a scholar from 800 years ago said you can kill someone, it's wrong. You know, you may say, well, okay, I will say he's wrong. And, right, secondly, those books are not translated and mass distributed, and I must put an exclamation mark, to children. To children. They are not, ever. Have you shown me where there is no goddamn translation of Al Bayan wa Tahsil, which is 18 volumes in Arabic, only came into existence about a decade ago, or just over a decade and a half ago. These books didn't even, like, they don't possess that level of a threat. And the last thing, you see, so look, first of all, these books, whoever said it, they were wrong. Okay. Secondly, they are not available in the English language. Then they are not mass distributed, and they are not targeting children. And then they are not in the UK or in these countries, like in the West or the United States. They are not here. So this is the problem, that they are normalizing these actions in this. So people said, well, they're trying to justify it like this. And some people said, well, look, it's illegal in this country, so we don't advise that people do it. You don't, let me get that right. You don't advise that people rape children. Are you even hearing yourself? This is wrong. Just call it wrong. They say, oh, but we refrain from calling this immoral. Why? What is wrong with you? Then somebody commented on my Facebook, Mufti, can you define rape? And somebody, people responded, thank God. People said, if you even need to ask that question, then, you're on the wrong planet. Now, this here,
Abu Layth.
oh no, this was just something somebody had shared on a non-Muslim site. Non-Muslim had shared somewhere. I was quite surprised, actually. Somebody shared it with me. Now, but it's true. They were quoting me saying I could never speak even a tenth of what I say if I was an imam in a masjid. Now, here is the famous book that everybody is defending so passionately. This is one printer. This has so many different prints. It is so widely distributed. And this is the wise man of this ummah, who Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi Sahib, who these Deobandis almost are worshipping some of them, that they refuse to say anything negative about him. Now, I'm going to show you something, people. This is from a distance. I'm going to show you a picture in a moment that kind of zooms into this. But this is there. This has got the page numbers and everything. Now, they tried to say to me that, look, Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi Sahib, because I highlighted, he himself married what was like a 10-year-old girl. So they tried to say, some people message, no, no, no. When he says minor, because I showed this last week, him justifying child rape. They said when he says he doesn't mean minor. He means a grown-up woman who just hasn't had her menses. This is what some of these people said. I was like, look, because look, I'm being honest. Wallahi, I've got daughters. One is 9 and one is 6. Which corresponds to the age that these sick monsters keep hurling around, saying a 9-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 6-year-old. Yeah, my daughters are 9 and 6. If I walked in to their room to find them learning Islam from garbage and trash like this, wallahi, I would be mortified. I would be devastated. Because remember, they don't know that this is Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, the wise man of the Ummah, his words. They just think this is Islam. They just think, oh, this is what maybe, as Muslims, we must believe. And so some of these guys are saying, no, Mufti, it doesn't mean that. It means like a grown-up girl. Sorry, it means an adult who is 18 but hasn't had her, quite conveniently, hasn't had her menstruation. That's what it means. Now look at this. Now zooming in. If a woman is underage but not so small that if one has intercourse with her, there is a fear of the vaginal tissues tearing to such an extent that the vagina and the anus will virtually come together. That by penetration, you will, the vaginal wall will lapse into the anus. This is the book. I'm not making this up. This is in the book. By come together, then by the insertion of the glands of the penis into her vagina, ghusl will become fard on the man if he has reached the age of puberty. However, if there is the aforementioned fear in a very minor girl, then mere insertion of the penis does not render ghusl wajib for her. Wallahi, where do we go? This is the kind of nonsense that is in this book. I've shown you the cover. I've shown you the page. This is there. And it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Now check this out. That's that page. You've got, he then goes on to elaborate. MashaAllah, the wise man of the Ummah. If a man is very concerned about ghusl, by the way, one thing Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi has is he has concern for this ummah that they are taking baths. It's not a laughing matter, but this man is obsessed. Ghusl is ghusl wajib. If a man has intercourse with any underage woman, ghusl will not become fard on condition that semen does not come out and that the woman so young that one fears that by having intercourse with her, her private parts will become connected. And look at the footnote that they are explaining it by. On account of her being underaged, her front and her back private parts are very close by, and it will be difficult to differentiate between them. This is light reading 101 for girls, not for research, not for your PhD, not for your reading up the sick minds of perverted people and these monsters and predators from the early 20th century, who went around also known as Maulana Sahibs. It's not about that. This is distributed widely for girls to learn Islam. So wherever you find if you don't believe me, go to any local Deobandi bookshop. This is on sale. Every single bookshop is selling this. Go to probably most Tabliki markazis sell this because they are also Deobandi. Now, so when I'm saying this, people are saying to me, look, you know, Mufti Saab, but these, and check this out. They got so offended that I highlighted that Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi himself married what was an approximately a 10-year-old. They got so offended that I said that they said we went to the article, and in the article it doesn't mention the age. And I said that in my clip. I said she was approximately, he says underage, he uses the word underage. I said she was approximately 10 because he gives the analogy that when Aisha got married, she was 9. So I realized this dream must mean I too will marry a very young girl. So obviously there's no point, why is he referencing? He himself is writing the reference of that dream and the age of Aisha being 9. So now they said that's not true. And I had somebody wrote a detailed booklet, which you've got these, these gustakh, these people who dishonor the Prophet, right? People like Halim, people like Usman, people like Limbada, who's giving them the blessing for this. These people, right, what did they say? They said Ashraf Ali Thanwi's wife was 18, even though it doesn't say a number, but they've come up with the number. Why? Because why are they saying this? Because they realize it's embarrassing. It's an insult. And what do they respond with? They respond to justifying child rape by saying that, look, the Prophet married Aisha at that age. So this is their article. This is their booklet, by the way, not mine. They made a little pamphlet, which they distributed wide, refuting me. That's my thumbnail above, my video about Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi with these things in his book. Them saying my hypocrisy. Why am I a hypocrite? Because I'm attacking Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi Saab for for marrying an underage girl when the Prophet. So in the video clip, they say, first of all, they say that's not true. His wife was, Thanwi Saab's wife was 18 because it would be an insult for him to be with a child, even though he himself writes he was with this child. But the Prophet married a child. Wallahi, that is dishonoring and insulting the honor of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to justify your own sick, perverted desires. Now check this. Right, you've got, they say, look at this. Since they keep quoting traditional ulama, look, you get the Don, Qadi Iyad, the legendary Maliki, right? He has an entire section. They keep saying people leaving Islam. He has an entire section on what will make someone leave Islam. And he has this section that if you attack, insult, or dishonor the Prophet, then he has this whole section on this. This is in the Qism al-Rabi. It's on the 4th. And it comes under the Fasl al-Wajhul Khamis. Okay? Comes under al-Wajhul Khamis. He says, okay, people who insult and dishonor the Prophet. But then he says, in this 5th section, he says, what about people who, they may be doing something which they think is right, but they get insulted by it. Like, let's say somebody insults them. So in order to justify, they drag the prophets into it. So as an example, he gives a few examples. He says, let's say somebody, Rajulun, he says that, look, and he says, فَفِن نَوَادِرْ, that's from Imam Malik. He says, فُتْيَا إِمَامُ مَذْهَبِنَا مَالِكِ ibn Anas, فَفِن نَوَادِرْ مِنْ رِوَايَةِ ibn Abi Maryam, في رجل, a man, أَيَّرَ رَجُلًا, he insults another man about being poor. Bil faqr. He says, you tramp, you're poor, you're like this, you're poverty. And the person says, Tu'ayyiruni bil faqr. He says, you call me poor, but weren't the prophets also poor? Or he gives the example of somebody who, for example, is a shepherd, and somebody says, you're just a shepherd. And he says, but weren't the prophets shepherds? Like, to deflect the insult, he brings prophets into it. He says that he has this whole section condemning it to one of the utmost punishments in their day and age in Islam. And they put it, by the way, as these people, unless they do tawbah, that is deemed as having insulted the Prophet and left the fold of Islam. And he cites many examples from Imam Malik, stating that anybody who insults the Prophet like that, or by taking a nux or bringing the Prophet in to their own defense, right, they cite that Imam Malik considers that person to have left the fold of Islam. Now, I'm not about calling people kafirs. I'm not about that. But I'm highlighting that look at how they throw the Prophet under the bus. Look, here's another Imam, Jalaluddin As-Suyuti, in his Hawil al-Fatawi. He has a whole section. Check this out. He has this whole section called Tanzih al-Anbiya and Tasfih al-Aghbiya. And he says, Amma Ba'ad, he begins that there was an incident in his day and age in Egypt. And he's from about, 4 centuries ago? He says that there was a person, أنه وقع أن رجلا خاصم رجلا فوقع بينهما سب كثير. So 2 people got into an altercation. They started insulting each other. And he says, فقذف أحدهما عرض الآخر. So one of them insulted the honor of the other. فنسبه الآخر إلى رعي المعزة. So what happens is one of them says, well, you're just a shepherd anyway. What the hell? You just take care of goats. What the hell do you know? فقال له ذاك تنسبني إلى رعي المعزة. That you're trying to say I watch over sheep and goats. فقال له والد القائل الأنبياء رعوا المعزة. He says, well, the prophets looked over sheep and goats. And he says, وما من نبي إلا رعى المعزة وذاق بسوق الغزل بجوار الجامع الطولوني. So that happens at this place. فترافعوا, so people, obviously the local authorities got involved. And he says, فبلغ الخبر قاضي القضاة المالكي. And he happened to be a Maliki judge. And the Malik here, when it comes to the honor of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have been at the forefront in defending the Prophet's honor. And he says that the Maliki judge in their day and age, he said, لو رفع إلي, he says, if this case comes to me, I'm gonna, and obviously this is medieval times, about 400 years ago, so I don't agree with how he was going to punish him, but he was going to have him severely punished for having said that. And he said, فَسُئِلْتُ. So Jalaluddin As-Suyuti says, I was asked about this. ماذا يلزم الذي ذكر الأنبياء مستدلا بهم في هذا المقام? What about this question, this incident, somebody does this. فأجبت بأن هذا المستدل, he says that يعزر, and he says this person should be punished according to him, Suyuti, who these people are always quoting. التعزير البليغ, excessively. He says لأن مقام الأنبياء أجل من أن يضرب مثلا. He says because the maqam of prophets is so high, you don't use them as an example to لأحد الناس, to kind of justify your own, your own happenings. You don't bring the prophets and look at them. I'm accusing Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi for justifying child rape. And he himself took a young bride. And then in this book, look, he's speaking about that the anus and the vagina is so close together because they're so small. And, if you penetrate it, you're going to collapse the entire wall of this child. And he's normalizing it. He's like, well, do ghusl. Acha. Can you imagine a little girl reading this? What will she think of Islam? What will she think of the Prophet, of Allah? This not only is the biggest khiyana, these people, wallahi, this is why, the Deobandis, and I know not all the Deobandis, but they have this ridiculous track record of insulting the Prophet to justify their elders. Yeah, when they've said things before, the Prophet's knowledge is like that of a madman, or like that of this person doesn't know what's behind the wall. Whenever they say these dumb things just because their elders said it, and they got to kind of justify it. But here, to justify child rape, they say, well, the Prophet did it. Wallahi, that it is so. This is how they're going to justify it to your children, to my children, to the people growing up in these countries, these imams. This is how they'll justify this. Well, if you're going to attack it, then you're attacking the Prophet. Well, first of all, the Prophet never ever did this. This is fabricated. And that discussion, I'm happy for any imam to come and have that discussion with me on Mindtrap. I will show him every single chain and how it was fabricated. And this all goes back to Hisham. And it goes back to him trying to promote a counter narrative of history, a Zubayrid narrative, under the sponsorship of Mansour, who gives him several, he financially endorses him on 3 separate occasions, brings him to Baghdad to do this project. Obviously, Mansour's not trying to fabricate this particular hadith, but this supports Hisham's narrative of providing a Zubayrid historical perspective. Because if Aisha is a supreme figure, then Zubayr and so on, who's his grandfather, it kind of gives him legitimacy. Okay, so right, coming back to this point, to drag the prophets under just because you feel you're getting insulted is bang out of order. Wallahi, it is utter. They have this term gustakhi, which is like dishonoring the prophets. Utter gustakhi, right? That's what these people are. No love. And they said to me, this is their response. They said to me, in bayan wa tahsil, Imam Malik, there's an attribution to Imam Malik where he said that somebody asks him about a 10-year-old. Now, first of all, the side note, that's not the response. Side note, that response is actually a separate paragraph, and most likely Utbi who's saying it. Right? And they themselves can see that because Imam Malik's response begins and it stops. He says that they say something, he's asked about this question. And he gives a response, but then they bring this hadith and they say, waqala. Let's go with it. So first of all, whether Imam Malik actually said that, because he's never said it in his actual books, in his actual Mudawwana, in his actual Muwatta. He never says this. But okay, if you say this is him, okay, let's say Imam Malik said it. And what? He was wrong. Imam Malik isn't God. He isn't the Prophet. What do you think I'm some kind of sectarian? Are you playing these ridiculous sectarian games with me? That, I know we're going to catch him, Imam Malik. Imam Malik isn't my dad. What? Yes, I obviously follow the Maliki madhab and I like his principles and I like what his teachings about the school of Medina and Maslaha and these things. It wasn't the Prophet. It doesn't mean he didn't make mistakes. Of course he did. What do you think? I blindly follow him? You think I've never disagreed with what Imam Malik has said? You obviously haven't watched my stuff. Of course we disagree with the Imams. We have a brain of our own. But yes, we love some of the principles they've highlighted. They've spoken about Medina, spoken about all of these things. Yes, we take the good, we leave the bad. What's wrong with that? They're not angels. They weren't people. These were people that lived 1,200 years ago. So, and yet they will struggle. You see, they themselves wouldn't even allow us to say Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi had a 10-year-old. They say, oh no, that's insulting. She had to be 18. Because why? Because it's an insult. But okay, the Prophet said it though. The Prophet did it though. So this is the problem. And these things are just way out of order. If you think the vaginal wall is going to collapse, then don't do it. Okay, so in those cases, don't rape the children. But, if the vaginal wall isn't going to collapse, then, maybe it's okay. You can. And his ultimate concern, if I just bring it back, is, and there you can see, look here, it's got the page numbers, it's got the section, and this is a very detailed translation. There it is. It's by Maulana Muhammad Muhammadi. It's edited, it's translated, it's been really taken care of, as you can see. And there it is, you see, very clearly. And there's no words on earth that justified. And him saying, well, things like, well, okay, in these cases, don't have sex with them, because you're gonna, after all, destroy her bloody, the vaginal wall. Then in these cases, you shouldn't do it. I rest my case. There's nothing more to say. All I'm saying is that this has no place in Islam, it has no place in the United Kingdom, no place in these countries. If an imam is defending it, he should not be in a position of trust. He should not be somebody that teaches little girls. Because if he's teaching them that this is okay and this is Islam, but don't worry, the Prophet did this or this did. No, that is bang out of order. Okay. People like that they belong in the medieval times. That's where they belong. Okay. So this message needs to be very clear. It's a very dark thing and I don't like it. And this is why I was saying that I don't like kind of talking about these things, because it takes me to a very dark kind of state of mind. And I don't like that. But I can't believe the resistance. And they try to troll me for saying this. Imagine a regular person did it. They would silence them, try to bully them. Wallahi, my phone usually doesn't accept like withheld numbers and stuff like this. And when I released that video clip of Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanwi, I must have had something like, they must have attempted, but it doesn't allow those calls. Something like 40 calls. People trying to call, hold their numbers, withhold their numbers, trying to troll, obvious. This is me. If you want to bully me, fine, go for it. You want to troll me, troll me. But other people had tried it, they would have silent. Imagine a regular person from the public had tried it, like they'd seen their child reading this. They'd gone to a local imam, they'd get intimidated, threatened, told that you're becoming a kafir, you're going against the Prophet, there's going to be God's curse on you. Other people would have bullied them, contacted them. It's sickening, man, and it's dangerous. Wallahi, all this just to worship, glory worship, a figure what is he? This wise man of the Ummah. TK, the guy came, he lived, he died, and I'm going to share some interesting, his ant juice and his other things. You'll be shocked. His kind of wise words. But yeah, you know what? Just for a few moments to change this, because I don't like this kind of, these topics. This is what, when I was saying about Nietzsche, you look into the abyss and the abyss stares back into you. It's unhealthy, it's toxic. So, yeah, so let's take a few questions so I kind of change this topic. Right, let me just bring up. Sorry, there was a super chat there. I think I just missed it. I need another coffee. I need a chill out session now. Guys, you're watching this, we got to set it up. Seriously, man, I don't like this stuff. Right, so question, can you attain? Yeah, I answered that. Do you think Islamic scholars are an endangered species? Well, this particular kind, I hope they are. Clear, you're doing it. Much love for the stars and the support. Sama al-Azhari, I would love to see it. Mufti, you are fluent enough to do a mind trap with Arab scholars in regards to hadith. Which hadith? The of Osama al-Azhari. I don't know what Osama al-Azhari's hadith are. Yeah. Why not? Why not? Some point, inshallah, we'll do of whether they accept the. Are we talking? I don't know what Osama al-Azhari's hadith are that he's concerned about? What is the reason Al Azhar has diminished in the Sunni world? Most institutes of learning have become redundant, unfortunately. Um, I've been on this for few minutes. I've laughed and already cried. Yeah, Mufti, have you seen the document trying to prove that the Kaaba was in Petra? Yeah, I have. Jafari, shukran for the super chat. Much love. I have a video responding to that. You see, now these people say about Islam, 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 they, where are their responses to the real challenges? You know that Dan Gibson's video, his whole Makkah question. I have a video response to that. Wallahi, I've not come across, and I'm not saying this to be, that are egotistic, become a bit egotistic at times. I'm not saying this to be egotistic, but there wasn't a single scholar I saw respond to him. Single scholar. My reply to Dan Gibson, which is on YouTube, wallahi, I had to research that, I had to go over it. It must have been 1-2 years, and then I replied. Right? Nobody, I didn't see anybody providing a reply to the Petra or the Makkah question. Right. Right. Did the Dead Sea Scrolls confirm the Torah is preserved? Strong, weak isnad. Why did the Prophet confirm the Torah, considering what Daniel says about the Messiah? Right. Okay. So when you say the Prophet affirmed the Torah, I'm not sure what exactly you mean. I mean, he affirmed that there is the Torah, that there was revelation to the Jewish people. I would think that, I don't know, in many ways, what they had was the gist of it was theirs, and it was according to their tradition, and it was in many ways kind of there and preserved. Maybe certain details weren't. But the Gospels were more about simply a good news. They weren't actually a scripture in that sense, in the sense that the way the Quran is. Right. Okay. That's that. Let me check Facebook. What questions are coming down as well? Petra, can somebody explain? You can watch my video on Petra. You'll understand this whole thing that Mecca was in Petra. It's a it's a detailed video. I go into it, but you can watch it there. Right. So, still haven't answered my question. Gia Kaur says, I don't know what your question is, Gia G. You have to post your question for me to understand. Deobandi should only make biryani. And this isn't, I'm not saying this to all Deobandis are like this. I believe most ain't, but they're trapped in that cult, and some of them are just pathetic. Like these people, they openly insulting the Prophet, and the other people are just silent. That's the problem. It's the silence which is the problem. Yeah, I've debunked the claim for the Petra question. Yep, ages ago. Right. So Deobandis have a track record of abuse within their families. They do. Wallahi, it's quite horrific. Quite horrific. I wish. First of all, I pray that all the victims can heal. I mean, Wallah, it's sad. I speak to. I think I have to stop these empathogens. Because, when I speak, I don't know whether it's age or what. But this stuff starts to hurt me a lot more. And you speak to people when it's going on personally with them, and it's horrible stuff, man. This is why I can't do certain things, because it's just too much. I can't. It just tears my heart, honestly, some of this stuff. And I think I think it's maybe just me, old age now, or me aging, or maybe it's the empathogenic kind of openings, which are not, it's difficult seeing a lot. So I pray that these victims can heal from their trauma. That's my first thing. Secondly, I do pray that they can reconnect with the faith, and they don't blame the faith for it, because that's really hard. I think not blaming the faith is so hard, because these people use the faith all the time. And I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example that one person who actually fully, I mean, there's no other word to say, raped his own daughter, Deobandi Imam. When later this matter came to light, you see, the problem is it's so heart crushing for those daughters to go through, relive the whole thing, and they don't, and I don't blame them. They don't want to sometimes bring it out in public, and they don't want to kind of that, like, they just want it to kind of go away. They don't want now, like, they don't, it's hard to deal with. And the father said that, when it was brought to light, that, well, I did Toba for it. That was his response. Can you look at that? Using religion to absolve himself from what is a crime against humanity as a whole. Wallahi, like I think that because it's these ultimate sanctities, these which can't be violated, and then to use God again, that say, well, I did Toba. So basically, I believe God has forgiven me. Who are you? Wallahi, my heart. I don't even like talking about this stuff. Wallahi, I don't like it. I don't like it. Right. So let's look at some other questions. Um. Right. So if you do that, you should be castrated. Yeah. Yeah. Right. So other questions. Let's look at some other questions. Yeah. Because it gets, it bothers me too much, this stuff. Let's look at Facebook. Guys, shall I, do I have to drink the ant juice? I'm gonna have to drink this ant juice. Damn. People, right, there's less of the ant juice for sale now. Right. Frody Frobbery. Can you talk about the prophet and the burial thing? Right. Okay. For that, let me read up the whole narrations and get back to you, because I don't want to talk about it if I haven't read all of the narrations involved. Right. So cool. Let's take some. Karima says, Mufti, I'm always struggling with fasting and studying for my exams. Can I just break the fast and make it later on? If you have exams, I have given that fatwa. If you feel that you can't do the fast, or that it will be, it will hinder your thing, you need to do the exams. I've said that that is a valid reason to make the fast up later on. Mufti, have you made progress? I don't know what progress means. Right, depression sucks. Yep. Mufti will go for a workout after this. I've got a few of my own weights. I could try that. Right, so what is going on? Ramdi Saab has a great video on depression. Right, okay, yeah, I have said stuff. Look, I do feel that it's a difficult one. I feel depression is a difficult one because there is the biological imbalance. But I do believe that if people have a strong enough willpower, they can kind of overcome that. Like, they can kickstart. But the willpower has to be strong. And obviously, because the person's already depressed, the willpower may not be strong. The other problem is I feel the social narrative doesn't help sometimes. Because the social narrative sometimes just tells people, oh, it's okay, you're depressed. Like, don't worry about it. Like, gives them a license just to be depressed. And that doesn't help the situation, because it doesn't help them fight against it. It kind of makes them feel a bit like, okay, just accept it. And I think you have to fight against it. You can't accept it like you can't just be content with it or just settle with it is a better word. You have to keep resisting it. There is no, no retreat, no surrender. That's what it is. Yeah. Right, Mufti, can you respond about the Sita Gita on the Utbiya claim? Yeah, where is it? You're doing it. Okay, so, right, people, okay, let's respond to this. Right, a few people have asked me. Now, they've said, look, Mufti.
Why I'm saying this?
The great gotcha moment that these people think. They've said that, there's a book called Al-Bayan wa Tahsil. We're going back to the Al-Bayan wa Tahsil. By the way, the same book which highlights that Imam Malik said things like, which I've discussed before, that whether it's anal sex or these things are permissible, and they say, no, this book is wrong. This book is unacceptable. You can't accept this book. Look at the double standards. When I've cited this book to show that Imam Malik isn't condemning gold, for example, when in Utbiyah where he says, oh, it's makruh if you give, golden earrings to little boys. And he doesn't say haram, and he doesn't say earrings are haram. They say, oh, we can't rely on this book, Utbiyah, the Bayan wa Tahsil, the 18-volume one, because, we don't know. Some people have criticized Utbi because, it mentions these rulings of the sex, the anal. Where Imam Malik's fatwa is that anal sex, he says, is more halal than cold water. Imam Malik's doing it. So, this same book, now that they find something that they think helps their cause, they're bringing the Utbiyah. Wah, 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 wah. So what they're saying is, in the Utbiyah, there is a riwayah that they are transmitting, that Malik transmits a riwayah which says that that it has been transmitted that whilst people are awaiting for Salah, Jesus will descend. So they go, aha! Gotcha. Ooh, ooh. Obviously, had have I known that they're going to be so well researched, I wouldn't have blagged it. All right, so that's why, people. That's why.
I'm saying this?
Why I'm saying this, right? So, look, listen. This is so simple, and I've said these things before. This is the very reason Imam Malik removes this narration. Imam Malik removes these narrations from his Muwatta. He removes this from his main books like the Mudawwana. He removes this. This is not transmitted from him in those books. Imam Malik himself, so Qadi Iyad in the Tartib al-Madarik, brings statements from Imam Malik saying that when he died, he said that there were so many narrations we used to take from Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri. And Imam Malik's an old man now. Remember, he's dying. He dies in 179 Hijri, and he's born in, 90 Hijri. So, so he's about 80. So these are in his final years. He's in his late 80s. Imam Malik is saying, he says, there were thousands of narrations we took from Zuhri, and we later rejected them. And Imam Malik tells them, in fact, he tells them that at home I have a chest of, a kind of like a container. I have this chest of drawers that I have this container, and in it are narrations which I later rejected. And after he passed away, they open it and they claim that he had something like 10,000 narrations in there, most of which were from Zuhri. But he refused to later transmit them. And Qadi Iyad brings this. So yes, the fact that somebody may have transmitted a transmission from Malik before, fine. I don't have a problem that, yes, this transmission from Zuhri is already there. That Zuhri has already said, half of the narrations of Jesus coming back, 50% of them are just all one man, Zuhri, who Malik obviously took from, but then later he stopped narrating most of his narrations. So this is why it's removed from the Muwatta. Secondly, this is the most important thing. You see, and there's a difference between a riwayah and a teaching. So me saying that I've heard that such and such has said this is not the same as me teaching it. So in Imam Malik's Muwatta, there are still several narrations that he brings. He does the riwayah himself and then says, but we don't accept the hadith. So just doing riwayah does not equate to believing in that opinion. Imam Malik has over 30,000 masail in his Mudawwana. Show me where he tells you that everybody teach this to your children that you must believe in this. Not once. Not once. Show me in the Muwatta, his last book, that he actually says, I selectively, carefully edited this book to be my final thing. Where does he say? In fact, he doesn't even bring a narration. And you know what's interesting is what does the popular narration of, from Ibn Shihab Zuhri and all these people, from Abu Huraira and all these people, what does the popular widespread narration say that Jesus will do when he comes back? And this is proof that Imam Malik slammed this view. What does it say that Jesus will do when he comes back? Obviously, remember his first day in office. The kingdom of God is here. What does Jesus do? First thing he does is he's going to go around the globe killing pigs. This is it, isn't it? This is the narration. Jesus, in his first day of office, he's going to come back when he saves the world. First, before saving the world, he's going to first of all kill pigs everywhere. Surah ni sakhti. Pigs have had it. Pigs are like, what do we do? Jesus like chasing after them, kill that pig, right? So Jesus is in South America killing all the pigs there. Now he's in China killing all the pigs there. Anyway, what does Imam Malik bring about? Look at a random hadith. No use for this hadith. It's just totally random in his Muwatta for the final piece. For the final piece, what does Imam Malik bring in his Muwatta? He brings a narration that otherwise has no reason to do it. I mean, he says that one day Jesus, he was walking and there was a pig. And he stopped the people and he said to the pig, this is Malik saying from Jesus, and he said to the pig, Mur bisalam. That he said to the people, let the pig pass by peacefully. Wallahi, that to me speaks volumes. Now, it may not to other people, but to me, the only narration that Malik does bring about Jesus, when it's to do with just like his character like this, he brings where he's actually showing kindness to a pig. As opposed to, he's going to come back and his first job is run around the globe killing pigs. I mean, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, what the hell have the pigs done? Pigs are like, yeah, okay, don't eat us, but why are you trying to kill us? The pigs are like, so anyway, right, so there you go. Now, so I hope that answers that question, that look, even if Malik, there's a transmission that somebody still transmitted from Malik, that one day, that Malik said, people said that in the future, one day people will be sitting there and Jesus will come down. Okay. And what's your point? So, yes, we know that Imam Malik's teacher used to transmit that in the hundreds. He used to transmit that because he's one of the key fabricators for it. We know that. So, Malik himself says, by the end of my life, I stopped transmitting most of what Zuhri told me. So, and this is why he had thousands of his narrations locked away at home and wouldn't teach them. So, and he didn't put any such narration in his final book. And he didn't teach it as a teaching. So whether somebody said it as a riwayah is not the same as a teaching. Hope that answers that question. And people, I genuinely don't get what the big deal is with Jesus coming back. I mean, what's the big... People are acting like Jesus is going to be here right now. Like, oh my God, why does Mufti not believe in Jesus coming back? Mufti not believe in Jesus coming... But look, if anybody wants a discussion on it, I'd love to get there. I want to understand what is Jesus doing when he comes back? I want to understand this. I want to be ready. What was it? First day in office killing pigs, second day in office killing Jews. The narrator forgot that Jesus is a Jew. He's killing his own like this. These are many of these, if he go back in time, they'd be related. He comes back and he's killing his own ethnicity. That's his second day in office. Jesus is doing it, Gus, man. Wallahi. You know, this Jesus that people believe in, this is an insult, wallahi, to Isa alayhi salam, as portrayed in the Quran. It's an insult. This kind of belief is ridiculous. You're insulting these prophets by saying this stuff. Moses, his miracle, rocks, he runs naked so people can see his testicles so they know he's healthy. What kind of nonsense is that? Wallahi, look how they treat prophets. Look at this. Moses, this is his thing, yeah? Oh, sorry, begin with Adam and Hawa. Hawa, she seduces Adam, so God punishes her with periods and menstrual bleeding. Shabash. You've got what is it? So Moses, in order to show that he's healthy, he has to run around naked whilst a rock runs off with his clothes, stealing it so people can see his testicles, so they know that that's a bloody fine pair of testicles right there. So, I mean, there could be nothing wrong with that fine gentleman. I mean, in all honesty, as somebody said, if I saw a rock running around stealing clothes, I'd be more kind of like focused on the rock than the next man trying to look at a man's testicles. I'd be like, what the hell? There goes a rock. So, okay, that's how they treat the prophet Moses. Suleiman alayhi salam, they say, he wanted to have a child, so he has sex with so many women, 99 women in one night, and he forgets to say inshallah, so Allah punishes him by giving him a handicapped child. I mean, God is, let me get this right. So handicapped children are a punishment from God. This is what they're saying, yeah? And they're a punishment to who? To even the prophet. For doing what? For for choosing not to say inshallah. Because the person said to him, why don't you say inshallah? And he didn't say it. So in the hadith, well, if he said inshallah, then he would have had healthy 99 children. But because he didn't, so God punished him. So God, basically, this is God's master plan. He says, well, he didn't say if God wills. So what I'm going to do is these 98 women, I won't let them get fertilized, but I'm going to fertilize that one, and I'm going to morph the child into a disabled child. Ha ha ha! This is my punishment to the dad who chose not to say inshallah, who happens to be a prophet of God. I mean, how blasphemous is that? And then they say, well, Jesus, who, by the way, spent his whole life teaching peace and love. Jesus was, he was an epitome of trying to say, look, don't get fixated on these little rules of the Torah and this and that. It's about love and it's about this. They say when he's going to come back as some kind of superhero who's going to establish the kingdom of God on earth, and his first day when he comes here, he's going to be running around the globe killing pigs, massacring pigs. A prophet, a wise, one of the wisest men, this is what he's going to be doing. And the second day, he's going to run around massacring Jews. Oh yeah, and the third day, he eradicates world poverty. It would have been nice if he did that on the first day. He eradicates world poverty. And on the fourth day, all animals become herbivores and vegetarian. Is that not an insult to Jesus? And then they insult God. God's going to create this kind of antichrist, which he's going to give God powers to, and then he's going to test you, and he's going to give him such powers which only God can do. So you know it's definitely God, but it's not God, obviously. So if you do say he's God, then God's going to obviously throw you in hell forever and burn you. What kind of sick games are these? You know, what is this like? Is this, Wallahi ma qadarullah haqqa qadri. Allah is so majestic. Ta'ala Allah ma yasifun. You know, this kind of nonsense. They're describing like some kind of like a child having a tantrum. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to give, you know what? Only I can do these things. So I know you're only going to believe in me because I can, but I'm going to give these magic powers to someone. He's going to do these things. Now you're going to believe in him. Oh, if you believe in him, watch what I do to you. I mean, how do you games? What these sick, twisted games? Yeah, well, you know. But hey, who am I to deny the miracles? You nutty nutties. Right. Mufti, I hope you're doing well. Rock Black, I believe that there were people who took a Sahih chain and put their message on top and sell it as Sahih Hadith, how to expose something. There were many people who did that. Many people did that. You know, they generated Sahih Hadith. Some people, sometimes it was done not as a kind of conspiracy. Sometimes it was a conspiracy. Sometimes it wasn't. It may have just kind of crept in and it just kind of caught, you know, something just catches flavor and it just kind of takes off. So sometimes there were things like that. Sometimes there was just stories that just got picked up as, you know, such and such says, and people mixing them up. And Mufti, this makes sense if Jesus is God. Exactly. That's true. You know, Salt Doget says that because you know what they're describing is exactly the kingdom of God on earth. Because according to Christians, the kingdom of God is meant to be on earth. Oh, the first Christians anyway. So this is what they describe. They don't realize, they're so blinded. They don't realize that this is not even Islam. They're fighting so hard for Islam, but it's actually Christianity that they're fighting for, but they just put Islam on it as a label. Mufti, who's your Baba? I need to go to the Baba. Please have a discussion with Christian Prince. Look, I'm not interested in Christian Prince. You know why? Because look, I'll discuss with people who are kind of intellectuals, not like somebody like Christian Prince. He's just like a Neanderthal, isn't he? He's just like, oh, your prophets are this. Oh, your prophets are this. Oh, why don't you go? Oh, why don't you go suck the boobies of such and such? Oh, would you allow your? This is what he does. Have you watched his thing? Oh, it says here the prophet said that you could suck somebody's booby. Would you? Oh, can I suck your mom's booby? Can I do this? Can I do? What the hell's wrong with you, man? And you know, like, oh, it says here. This is just. You can't have a discussion with somebody like that. That's an insult to have a discussion with somebody like that. Somebody said, Jesus is coming back as a Christian, but he's not doing any killing of pigs. Thank God. I think the pigs are going to be relieved. Pigs go, damn, we've been thriving for this long. And Jesus comes and just kills off the species. Right, so Mufti, do you know Dr. Colin Turner? And would you? Oh, that would be awesome. Yes. I mean, if Dr. Colin Turner would come on, please do have a word with him. Mufti, what is the ruling on buying an anniversary gift for my wife's boyfriend? For my what? What the hell? What the hell is that? Right. So, have you been to UK Fried Chicken, Nenny? Yeah, Nenny. We've been to UK Fried Chicken. All right, people, we're going to have to start wrapping this up. Before we do, I'm sure I did have some interesting... Oh! Speaking of miracles, people, and interesting, fascinating things. You know, for the... Where is it, man?
Let me add a little bit of spice to...
You know, we're speaking of the beloveds. Uh, these were some of the statements, man. Some of the statements. I'm just thinking, what shall I start with? Some interesting stuff, yeah. This was the wise man of the Ummah. Right, so look at this, check this out. Right, so these are his works. Now, this was just to kind of show you, give you an idea of why certain, there's a cognitive dissonance with the modern world, 2020, and some of these teachings. Right now, first of all, this was just to flavor it up. These are his own writings, and you couldn't make this stuff up, honestly. This is in Malfuzat, Volume 4. Okay. This is just an interesting one where Maulana Sahib, mashallah, may Allah elevate, no, damat, barakat, may his grace flow, as they say. So he's describing that as a child, a memoir, he's writing himself, कि फरमाया मैं एक रोज पेशाब कर रहा था. That one day whilst I was urinating, भाई साहब ने आकर मेरे सर पर पेशाब करना शुरू कर दिया. He's just speaking about, this whole thing is to explain testimony and when you accept somebody as opposed to, and he's trying to say that, look, when you have proof, when you witness something, there's an Arabic proverb as well that ليس الخبر كالعيان or ليس العيان كالبيان, or they say ليس المعاينة كالمخابرة, that if you're witnessing something, it's not like being told something. So he gives the example as an analogy. He says, well, one time when I was taking a leak as a kid, my brother came and he urinated on my head. And whilst he urinated, he said, like, where is it? He says, पेशाब करना शुरू कर दिया. इत्तिफाक से इस वक्त, he says that just as he was doing that, my father came. So he gives the example that I said that, look, he just urinated on my head. But he said that he also urinated on my head the other day. So he admits, he says, I too used to urinate on his head sometimes. But he says, but because my father hadn't witnessed that, basically he believed what he saw. So to establish this basic principle, that was just some fun light reading. Yaar, stop it, man. What, yaar? What? But the interesting stuff, interesting, man. Interessante, yaar, interessante. So what's this one? Okay, this is a sad one. This is, once again, goes back to these, these where they dishonest stuff and they don't call it. But this was interesting anyway. This is in volume 15 of his Malfuzat, page 182. He says, look, he gives the example that of one of the great buzurgs, one of the teachers, the great sheikhs of Islam that he considers, and he's endorsing this view, by the way, right? So he says that somebody came to him who had a dream, and he says it's always dreams, by the way, always dreams, right? So I don't know whether some splashes fell on there. Somebody had a dream, and they said, I fear that I've lost Iman, I've lost Islam, I've lost my faith because of this dream. The person says, why? What did you see? So he says, Hazrat ne farmaya, he says, मैंने देखा कि कुरान मजीद पर पेशाब कर रहा हूँ. That I saw that I was urinating on the Quran. Urinating on the Quran. Hazrat ne farmaya. So the Hazrat Sahib says, ये तो बहुत अच्छा ख्वाब हुआ. This is a very good dream. What are you talking about? He's like, this is good, man. What are you talking, man? This is good. He says, तुम्हारे हाँ लड़का पैदा होगा. You're gonna have a son. That's what it means. This is good news. You're gonna have a son. और वो हाफिज कुरान होगा. He's gonna be one who memorizes the Quran. So he then goes on to say, see, this is, he endorses that dream. this is obviously in the wise man's sayings. We have to obviously take wisdom from the wise man. Wise man, what this on? Oh, and before we come to the ultimate, we're going to come to the ultimate. Yeah. His teachings have been summarized by further Deobandi ulama, published by Deoband Publications. So this book called Ilmul Fiqh, which is then summary of his one by Hazrat Maulana Abdul Shakur Farooqi Lucknowi Sahib. I really had to share this with you guys, honestly, because I kind of felt like I missed out on some madrasa learning. Discussing once again the biggest concern of this ummah. What is it, guys? What is it? Come on, tell me. Cancer, poverty. Don't be silly. Yeah, it's whether the ummah is taking ghusl. It's always ghusl. It's, the dominance hierarchy. You've always got ghusl. Are they taking the ritual bath at the top? It's always that, yeah. Come on, behave. It's not... Right, so... Anyway, discussing once again ghusl. Right. So Maulana Sahib is explaining all the things that make ghusl wajib. So number 6 is obviously, and he's got number 7 is the same as Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Sahib has already said about the underage girl. I don't want to go into that again, but he mentions that same kind of thing, same ruling exactly. But number 6 before that, this one very interesting, Agar koi mard, acha, koi mard, if a man, man, apna khas hissa, he says, if he takes his special organ, special organ, what does he do with it though? अपने ही मुश्तरक हिस्से में दाखिल करते हैं. He takes his own organ donation and puts it up his own. He says, तो उस पर ग़ुस्ल फर्ज ना होगा. So guys, always come back to the hierarchy. The main concern of the ummah, does he have to do ghusl? He doesn't have to do ghusl, okay? So, yeah, how does one do, how do you, how does it reach your own, did I miss that gymnastics class? Okay, lift one leg here. Oh, it's the ant juice, isn't it? It's the ant juice. Right, so, but then things only get slightly more interesting. Why? Because people say, Mufti, why don't you accept the karamat? And I say, I do accept karamat, but they say, but you don't accept our kind of karamat. The miracles, the miracles. Now you might say, well, Mufti, why are you saying this? And I will say,
Why I'm saying this?
Why I'm saying this? I will say, man, why I'm saying this, man. I tell you, man. So in the wise words, the memoirs, Malfuzat, volume 9, man. 9, yeah. 9, the legal age. Right. In volume 9, in Al-Ifadat Al-Yawmiyah. Right, you know what? For this, because just in case people don't believe me, man. They don't believe me, man. Let's play the clip, man. So this is a clip, just so the reason I play a clip sometimes, so you don't think I'm... So this is his
मौलवी अशरफ अली थानवी के मलफूजात की किताब अल-इफाज़ातुल यौमिया वल इफादातुल कौमी
की
जिल्द नंबर 9 इदारा तालीफात अशरफिया मुल्तान की छपी हुई सफ़ा नंबर 182 और 183.
So he's giving you the whole...
मौलवी अशरफ अली साहब थानवी लिखते हैं कि मेरे हैदराबादी मामू बड़े दरवेश और आरिफ
मामू जी मामू Mamu, we're going to learn a bit about this Mamu Sahib today, right? So he's writing about his Mamu. His Mamu, his uncle, is a very special person, very special. He says he's very special, connected to God, very holy type, holy of holies. You Leviticus, right? So,
कामिल बुजुर्ग थे अब्दुल
oh, right, यार क्या कर रहा हूँ? Yeah, there you go.
रहमान खान मालिक मतबा निजामी भी उनसे मिलने आए
So somebody came to
उनके हकायक व मारिफ सुनकर बहुत मोतकद हुए
heard his expression, was like, wow, man, I totally rate this guy.
हकायक व मारिफ थे उनके पास जनाब मोतकद हुए अर्ज किया कि हजरत वाज फरमाइए ताकि सब मुसलमान मुंतफे हों
So he asked him, will you come? This is the Mamu, the uncle, that, look, please, will you come? I need to... He's writing this himself, by the way. This is in his own memoirs. He's sharing it. For the Ummah, and this, he says, is for Ifadat al-Yawmiyah, daily benefits, and al-Ifadat al-Qawmiyah, for the people at large to benefit from. So the guy is requesting his uncle to come do a speech.
मामू साहब ने इसका जवाब अजीब अंदाजाना अजीब आजादाना रिंदाना दिया
यार ये कैसा जवाब है यार?
वाज की दरखास्त की उसका जवाब
अच्छा
कहा कि खान साहब मैं और वाज सलाहे कार को जाओ मने खराब को जा फिर जब ज्यादा
So he says, look, I'm not interested. Okay, but then they keep insisting.
इसरार किया कहा कि हाँ एक तरह कह सकता हूँ क्या
He says, okay, with one condition.
वाज एक तरह कह सकता हूं उसका इंतजाम कर दीजिए मैं वाज कर दूंगा अब्दुल रहमान खान साहेब बेचारे मतीन बुजुर्ग थे समझे कि ऐसा तरीका क्या होगा कि जिसका इंतजाम ना हो सके ये सुनकर बहुत इश्तियाक के साथ पूछा कि हजरत
So the person says, sorry, we can't meet that request. So now Maulana Ashraf Ali Thanvi Sahib is saying, look, I was really curious. What is that request? Mamu Sahib.
वो तरीका खास क्या है जिसका हम इंतजाम करें और आप बाज गए मामू साहब बोले
So what is it? He's going to tell them the request.
मामू साहब बोले मैं बिल्कुल नंगा होकर बात सुने मैं बिल्कुल नंगा होकर बाजार में होकर निकलूं
I'm going to translate.
इस तरह के एक शख्स तो आगे से मेरे उज़्वे तनासुल को पकड़कर खींचे दूसरा पीछे से उंगली करे साथ में लड़कों की फौज हो और वो ये शोर मचाते जाएं बड़वा है रे भड़वा बड़वा है रे भड़वा
Wait there. I'm gonna yaar. You're thinking I don't understand. मैं हूं ना to help you, yaar. So this is his own Deobandi publications. This is not manufactured. This is not no interpolation. Nobody's adding. This is published by their own thing, and the volume, everything is there. You can check it. He says, "Look, I asked my uncle. I said, what was the request that they declined?" He said, कि मैं that I बिल्कुल नंगा होकर बाजार में निकलूं. He said that I commanded them that I will do this preaching, but I will have to set out into the street completely naked. अच्छा, बड़े advanced हैं यार. But with people, there's going to be a parade. Okay, a parade. Then he says, इस तरह with the condition, one guy in front of me, एक शख्स तो मेरे आगे से मेरा उज़्वे तनासुल को पकड़ कर खींचे. One guy from in front is holding my my private part, my extension, the organ, and he's pulling it. और एक शख्स और दूसरा पीछे से उंगली करे. And one guy behind me has his finger inside me, and he says, and then there is a crowd with us of other young lads who are saying, Barware, Barwa, Barware, which means here comes the pimp, here comes the pimp.
Mamu.
So these people, I was just sharing some wise words, which is actually, look, I'm not making any of this up. If I make this up, you can say whatever you want. This is actually and he's writing it himself for people to read. He's saying, look, I want everybody to read this and benefit about the awliya izam, rahimahumullah ke tazkiron, ashikan ilahi zul ihtiram ki hikayat. He says, I'm mentioning the stories of the people of God. Yeah, I want to be. How does one sign up to these kind of people of God, huh? Tawah. Yeah. And the biggest concern is what? Not the glorification of, mashallah, Maulana Sahib, whose works are being spread and in these countries, and the Darul Ulooms are built on his. These are not the concerns. The concerns are me not believing in Jesus Christ. And I almost forgot, man. You teasing me, man. What are you doing, man? I almost forgot. So, you've got the Beloved. I almost forgot to share something of the Beloved. Man, part of this one, man.
Moving on, you've got Hassan Bisri.
Hassan Bisri. Bisri.
Hassan Bisri.
Oh my God. Beautiful. Halim Big Toe, is that you? Ya Abdurrahim. You know what naughty stuff you've been at? Look at that. He's realized that's the moment of remorse right there. He's realized. I love that Tash, Wallahi, I love the the angles that the kind of the way he's got an. Is that what is that, an isosceles, or what kind of triangle is that, people? Upside. I love it. Hassan al-Basri, who's the great tabi'i, he's such a well-known figure in Islam. Such a well-known figure. That's like saying, imagine you've studied physics. And you've got a PhD in physics. You had like this alim course, like people spend 8 to 10 years, and they try in some countries to make it equivalent to almost a postmaster's. Yeah, so if not a master's level. So that's the kind of level. Imagine you've studied physics. And but yet you Newton, you say Newton. Newton. I mean, if you refer to Newton as Newton, or like what hope is there for any of your studies if that's how you've got? How can anybody go through an entire madrasa system, learn 8 years of Islam, and then pronounce Hassan al-Basri, who's from Basra, as Bisri? I am Mia Joseph.
Moving on, you've got Hassan Bisri.
Bisri.
Hassan Bisri.
Uli Bisri, yeah. Forgotten memories, man. You know what? That's a picture of my foot. What's he trying to grab? The pennies dropped there. All right, people, we gotta wrap this up. This has been going on way too long. It's been fun. Here, people, Hassan Bisri. Hassan Bisri. After that, there's nothing that would just kill an entire person, a person's entire academic profession. See what Newton discovered. So, all right, people, let's wrap this up, man. That's enough. Guys, right, so enough interesting things. Guys, if you want to, the usual drill, what shall I say? If you want to reach out, you know the drill, man. Instagram is a good place. I do respond there. I know last week I did say, look, last week I did say before, I was even thinking Monday nights may have been on Sunday because everything was a bit all over the place. So I didn't do a mind trap. This week I am looking to do a mind trap. I will try to squeeze in also the meetup. I know we're getting towards the end of the month. We've got to do the meetup. Other than that, people, if you haven't already liked, subscribed, Abeo Salo. Abeo Bisrio, Bhuli Bisri. Who else is going to supply you the ant juice? So if you want it, make sure you like, subscribe, and click on the notification. Yeah, just click it, man. Click it, man. So, yeah. And of course, to all my Patreon supporters, mwah. Shall I tell you something? Check this out. Part of the bullying tactic, I didn't even realize. This goes to show some of these people, they tried to report my Patreon, thinking that I didn't even notice, to be honest with you. I just got an email from Patreon just about 2 days ago saying, oh, we've done the investigation. It's all clear. There's whatever, our team looked into it, blah, 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 following what people try to flag. Look at this. Look at, you nutty. Oh, I still get away, Oh. Well, you try it, you try it, man. But no luck. Next time. So, people, of course, to all my Patreons, man. There you go, man. Mi queridos people, right? Mwah, Gio. To all of you guys, have an awesome evening, an awesome night, wherever you are. Take very good care of yourselves, man. Much love as always. And listen, I do want to say as a final note, Wallahi, this is not hatred to somebody who it's not my style. I don't hate on somebody who's just part of something. If people are Deobandi, I have a lot of dear friends who are also part of the Deobandi stuff. This is to those people who are the core problem. The other guys, like, a lot of them are trapped. They do need to grow. You know what? They need me to send them a bit of this, get a bit of, and then they need to kind of liberate themselves. So it's not, just because you're Deobandi doesn't mean that you necessarily support this kind of all this nonsense. I'm sure you don't. And I hope and I believe that you don't, inshallah. I believe in the better of humanity. Guys, take very good care of yourselves. And as always, Salamullahi alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, people. Stay blessed, man. And yaadon ko yaad rakha karo. Remember the memories, people. And we'll sign out with that.
Moving on, you've got Hassan Bisri. Hassan Bisri.
Bhuli Bisri, prem kahani.
Big Foot, you're doing it, man. Big toe, Halim, big toe, you're doing it, just man. Doing it, Made beautiful brothers. All right, people, signing out, man. Take